drive to right field. This ball is gone. Gone and into the history books.
The Seattle Mariners, Felix Hernandez, the 2-2. He got it! 34 years, 119 games. It's finally happened. A perfect game by a Seattle Mariner. It was done by the King.
And the 0-1 pitch on the way to Edgar Martinez. Swung on and line down the left field line for a base hit. Here comes Joy. Here is Junior to third base. They're going to wave him in. The throw to the plate will be late. The Mariners are going to play for the American League Championship. I don't believe it. It just continues. My, oh my. And they are going crazy at the Kingdom.
Welcome to the Corner of Edgar and Dave podcast, Season 3, Episode 1. We're back. I'm Jacob. Nick hasn't talked yet, but he's here too. How's it going, Nick? Episode 34 overall, but we are officially in our third season. I was actually kind of shocked when I started the new Google Doc, Nick, and I typed Season 3. I was kind of like, there's no way we've done this podcast for 2 seasons already. And I think part of it is because last season was so short, right?
Yes, last season was uber short, and you also have to remember our Season 1 didn't start until around July.
Was it? We only missed like a month or two. It wasn't like July. It was like
Yeah,
it was like June.
I guess you're right. It definitely started before the.
No, we missed 6 weeks. We missed 6 weeks. It was May. I think it was May.
You're right. We started like the week after Haniger got hurt.
Yes. Yeah, about
and
that.
This will be the first episode that we get to talk about Haniger as an active Mariners Seattle player.
Yes. True.
Which is so exciting.
Yeah, that's true. That's big, right?
Uh-huh.
He's healed, right?
It's happened.
It only took, oh my God, it took 3 years, 2 years.
It took Jesus to come down and mend his body back into shape himself.
I mean, Braden Bishop broke his balls and he was back quicker.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
That happened.
It was a spleen.
It was his spleen? I thought, who broke their balls then?
Haniger broke his balls. That's what took him so long.
Oh my God, I can't. It's so long ago. It's all the same thing. Because I remember, Haniger and Braden Bishop went down around the same time.
They did, and that's when we heard Haniger was hurt, we was like, who the fuck cares about Braden Bishop? Haniger's hurt.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, spring training's been going on. It's about like a week of games so far, a little over.
A week of games, but only 3 recorded Mariner games. Or recorded Mariner finishes, I should say.
Right. But some interesting things have happened, mostly with the really young guys. And we'll get into that because it all kind of starts. This offseason is a story, right? And it all kind of starts with one Mariners executive, Kevin Mather. And I'm going to be honest, Nick. I didn't want to talk about Mr. Mather.
Yeah.
I didn't. But then when I sat down to write the plan of the podcast, there was only one name that popped into my head. And it was Kevin Mather. So,
the biggest signing of the offseason.
Unfortunately, we have to talk about Mather. And I just talked with you about this before we started recording here. I've already ranted on this twice. And it hurts. But the reality is that this has been a story about like 3 weeks plus now.
Yeah. Somewhere
and
around there.
It still makes me mad on almost a daily basis. I find myself, and I find this so frustrating, because I find myself thinking about the name Kevin Mather about daily. And I want this name gone. So this is the exorcism of Jacob Hewitt removing Kevin Mather from his life. That's what this episode is going to start off with. So,
all right, go ahead.
I think every Mariners fan knows Kevin Mather, giant butthole that he is, decided to get on a Rotary Club Zoom meeting, as one does, and basically badmouth the entire organization that he works with. Naturally, he was fired. However, we'll get into this. I don't even think they wanted to fire him. I don't think they had no intention. If this story had gone away and people had forgot about it, there's no intention of Kevin Mather being fired by the Mariners. I mean, really, the crazy thing about this is that this video of him bad-mouthing his organization, his players, his livelihood, basically, came from like a YouTube video from an account that had, I think, like 6 followers when this all started. Like, someone documenting Rotary Club meetings in Seattle or wherever the heck they were. Basically, to get into it, oh, God, this is just disgusting to me. He went on a tirade, essentially talking about how much the Mariners are trying to essentially cheat their players out of service time. And he said the quiet parts out loud when it comes to that, right? He talked about service time. He talked about how the Mariners are very intentionally manipulating it, planning to manipulate it. They haven't manipulated anything yet, supposedly. Planning to manipulate it with future star players and upcoming superstar prospects.
Julio Rodriguez, Noelvi Marte, George Kirby. Every single one of them, I'm sure, was in the works already. Yeah,
he then badmouthed all of our players. There's no stone left unturned by Kevin Mather. He went after, fan favorites from Kyle Seager to Marco Gonzalez to, again, those prospects that he probably and then he went on to disrespect the fans and tell us, that Mariners fans are essentially idiots and are just big dollar signs in his eyes, basically. They're just here to make money off of them. And the saddest thing about when I think about everything that Kevin Mather said, from his perspective, and I think from the Mariners' perspective, the organizational perspective up in the, the administrative offices, he didn't tell any lies. I mean, I can argue with him where I think he was wrong. Like, I don't think Kyle Seager is not overpaid. We're actually, throughout his career, he's been underpaid. Although he said he was overpaid.
I totally agree with that too.
Marco Gonzalez, not a boring dude. If you've followed Marco Gonzalez at all, not a boring guy whatsoever.
Kevin Mather has very clearly never seen a Marco Gonzalez interview.
Hisashi,
the most compelling guy in the entire organization.
I know, right? Hisashi Iwakuma and Julio Rodriguez, English is just fine. We can debate what he said, but from the Mariners' perspective, from the president's office, from the team operations perspective, he did not lie, and that's the saddest part about it, right? He hates us. He hates the players. He hates his job. He hates the fans. What are we doing here? What are we doing here, Nick? Why do we have a Mariners podcast when the people that are running this team think like Kevin Mather does?
That's a very good question. And I think the only answer to it is, at this point, for me at least, thank God no one in the Mariners has come to us and tried to actually get us to fucking sponsor or do anything with what we do. Because I don't want to be fucking affiliated with them if they're going to be like that with their fucking players, their whole business, and their fans and everything. It's a fucking disgrace, man.
Yeah, I kind of want to start off, after summarizing everything he said, I kind of want to start off with my most kind of scathing indictment of it, is this is not a Kevin Mather exclusive opinion. This is the opinion of the Mariners' top brass. All the way from ownership to John Stanton, down to probably everyone DePoto and above. This is how they think of this organization. Which is sad, because as much as some people can be upset with them, and some of the decisions they made, the trades they've made, the moves they've done, the reality is that DePoto and Scott Service, I think, very clearly do not think like this. In fact, DePoto has done everything he possibly could to build up a great Mariners organization. The type of men and women and people that have these beliefs about the Mariners system are not the kind of people that are actually, I think, involved in anything that has to do with baseball.
No, they just see the Mariners as a cash cow.
And that's exactly it, right? And I think, going back to what my most kind of scathing indictment of this is I believe the Mariners are screwed because of this, and the only way the Mariners will ever be able to recover from this is if John Stanton sells the team.
Wow, I fucking hope you're wrong.
I think I said this to our dad on the first day that it happened, and we talked about it, or the day after it came up. And my first thoughts were like, why can we never be in the news for good stuff? It's always every off season. It's just it's getting to the point where it's painful, where we start these podcasts each season just being like, oh god, we got to do the mea culpas for our franchise. And I'm kind of getting to the point where if I'm not defending the players, I'm kind of getting tired of defending the Mariners. Because I've tried to do the mental gymnastics in my head the last 3 weeks of how we can survive this. And the reality is what player is going to want to come here and play for the Mariners? What free agent is going to want to come? Even if we have great clubhouse culture, which it appears we do. Everything that the players have said post Kevin Mather has shown that I think Mariners have one of the best clubhouse cultures in baseball that they've developed with these new guys, with the leaders that they've brought in and that they've kept in Kyle Seager, brought in Marco Gonzalez. I think that there's quality people in our clubhouse, but they're not going to stay, right? Like if you're Marco Gonzalez, who cares if Kevin Mather was fired? Good thing we have him under a nice contract, because why the hell would you want to stay?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I tried to allude to earlier, we're Oakland now, man. People are gonna sit with us for the 6-7 years that they get through the arbitration and come up and everything, and then they're gone. They're going to New York. They're going to Houston. They're going wherever the money goes, because there's absolutely no loyalty between the organization and the players anymore. Considering they would throw someone like Seager under the bus.
Yeah, a guy that's done nothing but. The reality is that the fact that this guy is the president of the Seattle Mariners baseball, and he doesn't know that Kyle Seager has taken pay cuts should be, based on his statistics, based on his career WAR, should have actually been paid more up to this point in his career. Yes, maybe at best, if you're Kevin Mather, you can argue that he's overpaid now, but the reality is he's just catching up. Yes, at the end of his contract, right, when he's in his decline, he's past his prime. Yes, he's technically, you could probably argue statistically, overpaid now for what he is going to produce for this year, right? However, he's been underpaid for the other 10, 12 years of his career. He's in his 14th year, 13th year, something like that. He's been underpaid for almost all of them. That's just kind of how baseball works, where you're generally underpaid for your arbitration years. I think it's actually optimistic of you, Nick, to say that players are going to leave after 6 years, because they're not going to be here that long. Like, if you're Jared Kelenic, if you're Julio Rodriguez, if you're any of these upcoming guys, George Kirby, you're not going to sign with this team after 6 years. And so the only way that the Mariners can even try and salvage this, the only way Dipoto can salvage this situation, and this thought makes me sick to my stomach, these guys are going to be traded in year 3 of their career. Because it's the only way Dipoto can salvage any value from them. You cannot let someone like Jared Kelenic walk after 6 years. You have to let him play. Once he reaches arbitration, year 4, something like that, you have to ship him out, because you can't wait until year 6, because you're not going to get anything other than relievers or something, right? You're not going to get those prospects that you need. You're risking it if you wait until year 6 and trade him at before year 6 or at the trade deadline on year 6 of his service time. You have to trade him if you want to have a chance to rebuild this franchise. You have to trade these guys, Julio Rodriguez, Jared Kelenic, once they reach arbitration, but once they get any later into arbitration, they lose their trade value. And that's the thing that makes me sick to my stomach, is our championship window, this thing that we've been talking about basically the entire time we've had this podcast, that we've been talking about our championship window. It has been slammed closed before we even get a chance to watch these guys play baseball. Before Jared Kelenic has stepped onto the field in a Mariners uniform for real baseball games, our championship window has been closed thanks to the idiotic comments of one person. And that's the frustration, is because even if these are the things they think, even if these are actually true, like maybe we're wrong in our perspective and these are all true things, You didn't have to say them out loud. Every team thinks this kind of stuff. Every team, and this is just common practice, that teams manipulate service time. That teams have their own, that they have their own thoughts about their players. Like, this is just the way that baseball operates, right? It's crappy, it's terrible, but now we lose. Literally, Jared Kelenic, whether he's ready or not, or Julio Rodriguez or whatever, especially Jared Kelenic, whether he's ready or not, I think it's almost 100% guarantee now that Jared Kelenic starts on the opening day roster, because there's no reason not to. Because if you wait,
my very first thought. Very, very, very first thought was, well, fuck, Kellenic's gonna be on the roster day one no matter what. If there's any way to salvage this situation, it has to start there.
I mean, and that's just a problem. Like, the thing is like, as much as I want these guys to get paid, the reality is if you look at the Houston Astros, how did they build their program? They built it by service time manipulation of superstar prospects. Like, there's a reason that guys like George Springer were with them for so long, that they were able to delay the service time of, all these young superstar players that are going to leave this team really soon and have already started to leave the team, right? And they won a championship, and they've been competing for a long time. But we're not even going to get the chance to do that because we're not going to be able to play the same game. Like, he hurt us so bad that we are no longer going to get to play the same game that all the other teams are doing, and they get to have their super prospects for 7 years, basically, because they manipulate service time. Instead, for us, we're going to have to get them for 6 years, because if we wait 2 months to start Jared Kelenic, it's going to be the easiest arbitration case for him to win in the world to prove that the Mariners manipulated service time. We are not going to get to, do the quiet thing. We're not going to get to do the little secret thing where everyone knows we're manipulating service time, but we're actually just saying, oh, he needs a little bit more time to be ready. We're not going to be able to do the things they did to Chris Bryant, the things they did, to all these young players now. This is an advantage that 31 other teams now get. And it shouldn't be happening anyways, but if the Mariners want to compete, they kind of have to do it, right? That's how you add an extra year to your championship window.
I also believe that it beyond the in-organization stuff, it's so much more fucked than that. What international prospect or Japanese or Korean league player is gonna want to come to Seattle now? There's no way these players in these foreign baseball organizations haven't heard or seen anything that's happened here, right?
Yeah, if you're a player that doesn't speak great English or anything like that, why would you want to go to this organization that badmouths its players publicly to everyone?
Yeah. And think about some of the best Mariners of all time. Edgar Martinez, Felix Hernandez, Ichiro Suzuki, Hisashi Iwakuma. These are foreign superstars.
Yeah.
And now they are not going to want to sign with the Seattle Mariners because there's some clear, I don't know how to say it other than, racist, undertones going on in, the head office.
I just don't even know if it's, racist. I haven't even really thought about that and put that label on it. I just think it's, moronic. These are the things people care about, that you have to pay for a freaking translator? Who cares?
Who cares?
Who cares? Are you that? You're obviously not that broke. You literally talked about how you somehow fleeced Root Sports into providing you a TV deal that you're not even worth. Can't wait for that next TV deal to come around. It's going to be really great the next time the TV negotiation comes around. If I'm freaking Root Sports, I might not even want to carry Mariners baseball anymore.
Right? Fuck that.
Fox just got rid of... Fox is, after being acquired by Disney, Fox is getting rid of their regional sport networks. Where are the Mariners going to play base? Who's going to want to show these teams? The Mariners have just admitted to everyone... The Mariners just admitted to everyone that they have no value. They're worthless. God. Who's going to want to make a deal with them and pay them millions of dollars to show their games?
On air and was like, these fucking idiots signed a TV contract with us when we had no other competition. They had no other competition.
It's absolutely moronic. And that's what it really comes down to. I don't necessarily think anything he said was a lie, especially from his perspective. It was just moronic. And it frustrates me. This is probably the calmest conversation I've been able to have about it, because the more and more I think about it, the more and more I'll get riled up, because it makes me sick to my stomach that we I just want, it's been so long. It's been almost 20 years since we've made a postseason game.
And they better have more than one at this fucking point.
I was 9.
Their fucking asses off to get back from this.
I was 9 years old. You were what? You were 5 years old? No, 6 years old. The last time the Mariners played postseason baseball.
Oh, I was 5. 2001. Yeah, I'd be 5 for sure.
It's like so sickening. I thinking about it again, it just makes me sick to my stomach. I'm kind of done talking about it. It's just like everything is not true. And as much as the players, I know that our dad said to me, he's like, oh, the players have already said and that they just view these comments as a rogue person. It's like I don't believe that. If you think that this is just some stupid guy making comments, you don't change your Twitter bio to very boring. Literally, Marco took out the part where he said he's a pitcher with the Seattle Mariners, and he just put very boring. I don't believe that.
It's not him playing. It's him taking a jab at the Seattle Mariners. It's not him just fucking around with the fans.
I just have a hard time believing, especially in the history of Mariners baseball, where our clubhouse culture has not been great, that we somehow have created such great clubhouse culture that they're going to be able to overcome this, and they're all going to want to be Mariners. They're going to want to here. That's the thing that makes me so sick is Jared Kelenic, Julio Rodriguez, all these guys on Twitter have been talking for the past 2 years about, I can't wait to bring Seattle a championship. I can't wait to start my career in Seattle. I cannot wait. I cannot wait. I cannot wait. And yeah, they're not going to be saying that anymore. There's no way that they think, oh, I can't wait to be a Seattle Mariner. They're thinking, I can't wait to be a Major League Baseball player and get the heck out of Seattle.
And the amount of potential superstars on the team right now or coming up in the immediate fucking future is astonishing. Mitch Haniger could absolutely, if you've seen his spring training, I know we're not really there in the podcast yet, but he looks fucking great. Like physically, mentally, like his swing looks great. Oh my god. I could see him having a breakout year easily. And you look at what Kyle Lewis is doing, even after like only 15 at-bats in spring training, he looks like a fucking superstar. Like, I've watched a lot of spring training games, and he is one of the better-looking players out of all of the clubs.
Yeah, I
mean...
mean...
Jared Kelenic also looks like an absolute ripped fucking rock star, man. Like, I can't believe the fuck up that these Seattle Mariners just did this offseason.
Yeah, I just...
One day.
It makes me sick. If one person, one day, makes me sick to my stomach. And like, these guys are not dumb. Their agents aren't dumb. They're going to know exactly, like, this, again, it goes back to me saying, like, this is not just Kevin Mather just, talking out of his butt. This is how they feel, the top brass feels about this team. I mean,
what kind of fucking contract do you think would take Jared Kelenic to stay in Seattle?
Well, that's the thing is that for any
$38 million
for any free agent, we're not going to be able to build a championship contender because we're not going to be able to keep the young guys, and if we do, we're going to have to overpay them. Or any free agent that we bring in, we're going to have to overpay them. Like if people thought we overpaid Cano, just wait what it's going to take to bring in any free agent now.
Yep.
It's outrageous. It makes me again. I was angry before, but now talking about it, usually before I got angry every time I talked about it. Now it just makes me sick to my stomach.
There's another foreign-born Seattle Mariners superstar, Robinson Cano, and his good buddy Nelson Cruz. Jesus Christ, man.
Yeah, I actually believe the only way to save the reputation of this club is John Stanton needs to sell the Mariners yesterday, and even if they trade away all the players and create a new crop of prospects, like say Jerry does everything he did the last 2 years, 3 years, all over again, revamps the farm system again. If this team is still owned by John Stanton, we will not be successful. I think it's not free agents are not going to want to come here. Prospects are not going to want to stay. I firmly believe that their names have been sullied by this fiasco. That
one of the only even slightly positive spin you could put on anything that fucking happened is that this fucking idiot didn't have the balls to talk shit on Felix.
Probably because he doesn't even remember who he is. I don't think this guy watches a game. Like you said it earlier. If this guy watched a single baseball game, from the Seattle Mariners last year, he would have saw that Marco Gonzalez probably has the best personality on the team.
Oh yeah.
Him talking to Goldie on the broadcast, that was pure gold. I wasn't even watching the game. I was literally when I knew it was Marco's turn to be the pitcher to talk on the game, like that was stop what you're doing, must see TV. Marco Gonzalez was so good. This is the guy. I mean, it's
actually so entertaining.
Yeah, it's very obvious, from anyone that's been listening to this podcast that I love Marco, but I think everything I've ever said about Marco has been clearly represented in his game and his character as a person. I was kind of hoping that he'd be a guy that would be with us for a long time, hopefully the rest of his career, and then would want to stick around and be a coach or be in the broadcast booth or something. Like, I wanted Marco to be with this organization forever. And why would he? Why would any of them?
Well,
John Stanton, this is my call right now that John Stanton, and I don't know how he got away with this. Why is no one talking? No one is talking about the team ownership. They've absolutely fleeced the mental space of Seattle media and Mariners fans, because everyone is talking about Kevin Mather and being like, well, he's fired now, he's gone. All the players have said that they don't care about what he said and they only care about what's happening on the field. Like, if I don't believe any of that for 1 second, and somehow they've distracted and the messaging coming out of this so much that I think people have forgotten that this guy, this Kevin Mather, is not some random person. He's good friends. The only reason he doesn't have any baseball experience, the only reason he has this job is because he's networked correctly and knew the right people and is friends with John Stanton. And John Stanton didn't want to fire his friend. He only had to because they couldn't sweep this under the rug and people didn't forget about it. Thank God. Because the players sure aren't going to forget about it, but they wouldn't fire him based on what the players wanted. They fired him based off of public perception. And they think think about what they said when they talked about they were firing. They said, we want to thank Kevin for his service to the Mariners. He just tanked your organization. Thank you for your service. He hasn't done nothing. He hasn't done anything for the Mariners. He doesn't even know who the players are. He doesn't even know that Marco Gonzalez is one of the best guys we have on the team. He doesn't even know that Kyle Seager has taken pay cuts and has been underpaid based on his production throughout his career. Thank you for his service. He's done nothing. He literally lit the building on fire and walked out and was like, good luck, guys.
You watched the video, right?
Yeah.
He was fucking hammered, man.
Oh, he had to have been. That's what Dad was telling me, is that he's like, I was like, at first I was like, was he really could he have been that drunk? It was like an 8 in the morning or 10 a.m. Zoom call.
That dude was on a fucking bender. Didn't realize he had a fucking Rotary Club to talk to in the morning, and he just fucking winged it.
Yeah, I'm frustrated. I'm kind of, unless you have anything else to say, I'm done talking about this. My pessimistic self is coming out, and I'm generally not the pessimistic one on this podcast.
Oh no, that's me for sure.
But I am very worried about the future of the Seattle Mariners as long as John Stanton continues to own the team.
So if I can switch roles with you and be the positive guy for just a minute here, I do think it is very compelling to see guys like Mike Cameron, Ichiro Suzuki, and Franklin Gutierrez. Franklin Gutierrez, another foreign-born superstar that came to Seattle Mariners and spent most of his career there. But those guys seem to generally, I mean, from what I can tell from my perspective here, they look like they love the Seattle Mariners organization. And maybe the young guys seeing Ichiro and Mike Cameron and Edgar Martinez, Ken Griffey Jr., any of these guys, and just the love that the fans have and the community has for them will make them want to at least give an honest consideration for staying with the Seattle Mariners.
It really is. The only redeeming thing out of this is that I actually think that Mariners fandom is good and can stick by these guys. And if there's anything redeeming about the entire Seattle Mariners organization, it's the guys on the field. It's the guys on the field.
Oh, yeah.
I love these guys. I really do. I think this is a special group of people. I really do. I think just from being quality people, from being good baseball players in the future, like I'm very happy if I'm only talking about the Seattle Mariners baseball players, the guys that lace it up and put on the uniform every day. I think the Seattle Mariners organization is the best in the world. That's why we're such huge fans of them, right? But to be associated with these people
I literally cannot get enough of these guys. I think they're all super fucking cool, and I just want all of them to succeed, like, phenomenally. I want every single person on the roster to get Rookie of the Year. I wish there weren't suits that would just play games with our passion and with these guys' careers in their lives. I wish they just didn't have the ability to do that, but I mean, it's a business. It's honestly, MLB couldn't have said it better than I think it was the MLBPA who said it best. Let the kids play, man.
Yeah, I mean,
stop all the corporate bullshit. I just want to watch some baseball.
I hope you'll agree with me though that our official stance on the whole thing is that the official Corner of Edgar and Dave podcast stance is that John Stanton needs to sell the team. I hope you agree with me that that's the official stance regarding ownership of the Mariners.
To be the sole owner of the Seattle Mariners, the Corner of Edgar and Dave podcast. So your stance at the end of the day is the more important one. I'm just here to back you up and have a good time.
I'm so sickened by them. I'm ready to move on. I hope if there is anything redeeming about it, it's that our players. I hope it's true. If I was allowed to bet on sports, I wouldn't put any money on the Seattle Mariners winning a championship in the next 10 years because of this, but I hope I'm wrong. I hope I do. I hope I'm just too pessimistic about this, but the whole thing is messed up.
Yeah. Yep. It really is.
All right. Moving on to the team. Moving on to the boys on the field. Jerry Dipoto, as one does, as a Jerry Dipoto does, has been busy this offseason. Not as busy maybe as we would have hoped, but there were some big moves. Let's just go right into it. So who's gone on the team? Honestly, not too bothered by too many of the guys that are gone. The two big names that stick out to me. So I wrote down 5 names of the guys that were gone that stuck out to me.
Yep.
Yoshihisa Hirano, Tim Lopes, Phillip Ervin, Wyan Chen, and D. Gordon. The only real 3 names that I would be interested in even talking about, we'll just say 2 of them right off the bat. Phillip Ervin, Wyan Chen, thank you for your service, as John Stanton would say. Not gonna miss him too much. Phillip Ervin was interesting, but I think he's just a first round bust. Kind of sucks. It was nice to see him here. Glad he got a shot. Yoshihisa Hirano actually played some
pitcher for us last year.
Yeah, he was a decent pitcher for us last year. He got us out of some tough spots. Got us some innings and got us through the shortened season. So
he was the most stable 7-8 guy.
Yeah, respect to him. But I think the big ones that hurt the most are Tim Lopes and D. Gordon leaving. D. Gordon, not because of his bat or his speed or anything like that. Like, he's just a great guy. I think he found a team, right?
I don't know. I think he signed a minor league contract. That's all I know. I don't know
check.
I don't know who, but I do remember saying that.
I
think if the Seattle Mariners
the Reds
re-signed D. Gordon, that would have been a fantastic PR move.
Yeah, D. Gordon's with the Reds.
Yep.
Right now, and Tim Lopes was claimed off waivers
by the Brewers,
and then traded to my Milwaukee Brewers. So, Seattle East, the Milwaukee Brewers.
He's back with Malix and
Vogelback and Ben Gamel
and Logan Morrison.
I don't know if Lomo's on the team. At one point last year they had Lomo and Smoke. I think they both might be off the team though now.
Actually, they had a third one because I remember giving you a pop quiz on how on what were the 3 very notable former Seattle Mariner first basemen. And it was Justin Smoke, Lomo, and a third one who now I can't remember either.
It wasn't Vogelback?
No, because it was before he was traded.
I don't
remember. It was going into preseason. It was like one of the first episodes of season 2.
I don't remember who it was, but they have a ton of former Mariners. They have one of our catchers. Is it Narvaez? Omar Narvaez?
I believe they do, yeah.
And they have Ben Gamel, who I already mentioned. Yeah, so that's just it's Seattle East.
Well,
The Milwaukee Brewers, which kind of plays into our it's gonna play into our Dorktown episode review that we're gonna have later in the podcast. And then the one that I think personally hurts me the most, I'm not sure. I think you feel the same way. Tim Lopes. I mean, we rooted for that guy. We were a big Tim Lopes stan podcast. We loved us some Tim Lopes. I mean, I literally am losing my best Mariners gifts that I used on Twitter every time last year. I was literally at the beginning of the season, I was just like tweeting at the Mariners official account, just being like, put Tim Lopes in the lineup every single time he got a hit. I would post that. So I'm gonna miss Tim. I'm gonna miss Timmy.
Do you have any new underrated outfielder to take his place?
Not yet. Okay. We'll see. Marmoleos maybe. I don't know.
Really, Marmo? I think off the top of my head, I would still go back to Fraley. Or
yeah,
really
that's a good one.
You know, his little brother's like a fucking top 30 prospect.
Really?
That kills me. Yeah. Oh my
With
God,
who?
Yeah. You were asking the wrong guy.
Okay, never mind.
It's
not important. if you don't remember, it's not important. However, so rest in peace to those guys. Can't they've been sent off to the farm. They've been good boys. We'll see them in heaven.
Yep.
Big respects. I'll miss you, Tim Lopes. D. Gordon, great guy. Anyways, people that have been brought in. The big one that was brought in, your boy, Taijuan Walker. Just kidding. Taijuan not signed. Taijuan going to the Mets, who I believe we'll talk about later at the very end when we do our top 10 power rankings of teams. And however, the good boy that was brought back, Big Maple himself, James Paxton, brought in on a 1-year deal. Looking for a little bit of that Taijuan Walker magic, coming back in, getting everything straightened out, putting on the old unis, remembering everything for good time's sake. That's got to be it, right? And it was kind of one of those things where it's like we signed Paxton when Walker was still available, but it was kind of a sign, right? Like once you saw the Paxton signing, you're kind of like, oh man, we're out on Walker, aren't we?
Oh, definitely. As soon as we did, I was like, we got Pax! And then I was like, wait a minute.
Who would you rather have had?
Probably Ty. He has probably a better upside. And I mean, considering the Mets gave him like a 3-year deal for like $30 million, I think he has a really good upside.
I mean, he had a great year last year. It's one of those things where it's like, are we not putting enough respect on Big Maple's name? I mean, clearly, in the time that they were both here, James Paxton was the better Mariner. Are we disrespecting?
$1,000,000 gajillion %. No doubt about it in my mind.
Are we not respecting Big James enough? What's happening here?
Not. And I think Paxton going to the Mariners with the Mariners doing the 6-man rotation this year, there couldn't be a better fit. It's the organization that he's had the most success with by far, and it's kind of them almost working around his issue, which was like throwing too many innings too quickly, right?
I think the thing is he's just not a Yankee. Like, look at the dude. Every time he's on the mound, he looks like he's about to cry. And I love James Paxton. He's just a timid dude, right? I mean, obviously,
I kind of got that from him on the Mariners too.
obviously, he has a competitive spirit, but I just don't think he's a New York kind of guy. To me, definitely. I think he's a big Pacific Northwest kind of guy. I think kind of like with Ty, I think things are just going to come back to him once he starts pitching with us. And I like you said, pitching in a 6-man rotation is going to help his arm out undoubtedly, right?
Oh, 100,000,000%.
We'll see how long the 6-man rotation lasts for, but I think.
Do you like it? Did you like it last year?
I loved it last year. I loved seeing all those guys. As much as
a new trend in baseball.
No.
Some teams are going to go with a 6-man rotation. You don't think so at all?
Nah, I mean.
Just too expensive to throw 6 starters on the mound?
No, I don't think that's it. I think that the best guys are not going to be okay with pitching once a week.
That's very true. Yeah.
I think the best guys want to take take the rubber as often as possible. Like, could you imagine? Like, I mean, obviously he's got the TJs, but like Justin Verlander, like pitching once every 6 days. Like think about it through a whole 162 game season. How many starts that cuts down on? I mean, I'll just do the math.
At this point, he's already got the contract, and I do believe the Astros are one of the other teams going to the dedicated 6-man rotation.
Are they? Am I just like I missed that? I haven't heard any news about that.
He's out for the season. So
yeah, he is out for the season, right?
Yeah.
Let's see. 162 games divided by 5 is 32 starts. And 162 divided by 6 is 27. Like, losing 5 starts, like, these guys are going for awards. As much as I know that Marco is a top 5...
27 games.
Yeah, as much as I know that Marco is a top 5 American League pitcher, and I'll fight on that hill forever.
I'll definitely put him in the top 10. Give him a consideration for top 5.
The reality is he's not going to have a chance to win those awards, like the season awards. And it's kind of nice that we have a guy like Marco, like, that our best player is a guy that respects the process and respects the system that we're going in. But also, after what just happened with this offseason, like, is Marco, is our, you know, all these guys, Justin Dunn, you know, is the squad, you know, Yusei Kikuchi and, you know, are they all going to want to participate in that, right? Because really it hurts if their stats aren't as good, if they're just relying on all these average stats and these adjusted statistics, right? And you can't say like, oh, I struck this many guys out. Oh, I pitched this many innings, right? It's going to hurt them when it comes to their contracts. It has to, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they don't have necessarily the body of work that other pitchers are going to have. So if these guys don't have, you know, aren't feeling the Mariners anymore, are they going to want to participate in this system? Are they going to be happy to do it? Because last year it seemed like they were happy to do it. Last year they were a unit, right? You know, Kendall Graven. I'm trying to remember everyone's names. Kendall Graven, like last year they were a unit. They worked together. The starting pitching core for the Seattle Mariners was as tight as any unit in baseball last year. Those guys loved each other. They loved to play. They loved to play with each other. They were at each other's bullpens every single day. Like, is that going to stick around when the organization that you've sacrificed for has turned your back on you? I don't know.
Well, it's good to see that 4 of those 6 guys are still in that starting rotation at this moment. I mean, I know Justin Dunn specifically is really fighting for that 6th spot. But Marco Gonzalez, Yusei Kikuchi, and Justice Sheffield are definitely going to be on the starting roster.
Yeah, they're locks. Paxton is a lock. Kendall Graveman, maybe. It's probably a lock.
Oh, you know who we didn't put on this list here? The other starter who came from the KBO. What's his name?
Ooh, I don't know. I didn't know about this guy. I'm a bad Mariners fan. You know who's going to be exciting? You know who's going to be exciting to see lace it up in Mariners blue this year? That's right, our big free agent signing, Trevor Bauer. Walk on down. Just kidding. He's going to the Dodgers. we remember how much we talked about that prior to the offseason?
Oh, we wanted it.
We wanted it though. Like, we wanted it. You're telling me you didn't want it? This is revisionist history. If you're not willing to sit here and answer honestly and be like, I desired that more than anything in the world, you're lying to me.
Well, seeing as he was always talked about as wanting to do 1-year contracts for his whole career, it was a fucking stretch that he was going to do a 1-year contract with the Mariners. The Mariners would never offer him that 1-year contract.
He didn't even sign a 1-year contract though.
But he signed a 3-year contract, which is a fucking anomaly. When have you ever seen a fucking superstar Cy Young Award pitcher signing a 3-year contract?
And it's probably because he's a little older, right?
Not that old. I mean, he's only like 29, maybe 30.
I don't know. Either way, it was a long shot for him to come to the Mariners. I kind of laugh. I laugh a little bit at Mets fans. They get a little chuckle from me, but also they got done dirty.
Oh yeah.
So, you know, tough look. I mean, it's one of those things where it's just like, when I see someone like Trevor Bauer sign with the Mariner or with the Dodgers, And then I hear how our organization, how our former president of baseball talks about the team that he operates. It's like, I really wish I was a fan of one of those teams that was like trying to win. And I believe the players are trying to. I believe the players are trying to win. I believe that Scott wants to win. I believe that Jerry wants to build a winning team. But it'd be nice. It'd be nice to be like one of the like 5 teams in baseball that actually every single year are signing guys and are trying to win.
At this point in time, I just fucking wish I was an Atlanta Braves fan. Why do we not grow up in Atlanta, man?
I don't know, because it would have been too hot. I wouldn't have made
every
it.
Single one of those me neither. I see every single player on that team, like pitcher or position player, and I'm like, these guys are fucking great. I want to root for them. And then you look at all the titles these teams have, and it's like, fuck me, man. Why were we born in Seattle?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like what the Trevor Bauer signing made me realize that, like, if we ever have a championship window, it's going to be so small. It's going to be so short. It's going to be essentially kind of like what the Royals had, where they had that 2-year stretch.
Yep.
It's going to be that, because the reality is that we are fans of an organization that their number one priority is not to win baseball games.
No, it's to fucking barely squeak by their business.
Yeah, and so
they're basically a movie theater.
Yeah, I mean, there's got to be something to be said. Like, the fact of the matter is that the richest, most successful teams are also the ones that are trying to win every year. Like, I don't know how that doesn't translate to these executives and being like, wow, I wonder what would happen if we actually went all in and tried to, like, pony up to make some money. Like, the Yankees and Dodgers are not poverty franchises because they're paying these players all this money for free agency and stuff like that. They aren't poverty franchises. They're the richest, most successful franchises, and they're trying to win every year and pay their players the right way. And it's like,
actually one of the things that absolutely murdered me about this offseason was the week before the Mather thing came out, the San Diego Padres and the Dodgers basically came out and said, in pro baseball, you have to spend money to make money. That is literally how the league works. And you see what these two teams did in the offseason. They have to be right. They have to be right. And then a week later, one of the lowest budget teams in all of baseball, your Seattle Mariners, get their CEO on podcast or on broadcast saying that we're the cheapest team around and we're doing the best at being the cheapest team around.
Yeah, and he's like, they're like proud of it, right? It's so frustrating too, because it's like, it's not even like the Mariners. Seattle is not Kansas City. Seattle is not Milwaukee. Seattle is not freaking. Seattle is a large market. It's not New York. It's not Los Angeles. Seattle is. This should not be a poverty franchise. We are not Oakland. We are not Oakland, California.
Pacific Northwest. There's no team in Oregon. There's no team in Idaho. There's no team in Montana. All of those guys are rooting for the Seattle Mariners because they are the closest team to them if they're watching baseball, right?
Yeah, we do not live in a poverty market.
No.
But we act like our organizations act like they do. Even look at like Seattle, for example. I mean, Seattle. Look at the Seahawks. This is not a Seahawks podcast, but even the Seahawks, they act like they're a poverty franchise. Why? Seattle is not a small market. It's not.
Oh my god, not at all. Dude, it murders. This last week, I'm reading all of the offensive line problems that they're having. It's like, just get the man a center. What are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, we're not a Seattle Seahawks podcast, and I don't think either of us would ever pretend to know anything really about the game of football.
No, but if your superstar quarterback
says
he wants a better line, you get him a better line.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we see the parallels, right? The only reason I bring up the Seahawks is because I see the parallels between the Mariners and between the Seahawks, and it's like, why are both these organizations acting like a poverty franchises? And then Seattle has the balls, like, to say, like, oh, we want a basketball team, we want a hockey team. We're a couple years away from being a city that has a team of each of the 4 major sports actually 5 if you add soccer. We have the Sounders. We're about to have every major professional men's sport have a team in Seattle, and all of them really except the Sounders. I don't know how the Kraken are going to act. I don't know how the Sonics, if the Supersonics, if they ever returned, would be. But our two biggest sports that we have in Seattle right now act like they're poverty franchises.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, how are we going to be a city that supports 5 professional sports teams? And
So,
are they all gonna
question
act like they're Baroque all the time? I don't know.
Question that just popped in my mind. So there has been minor talks of about a possible expansion, adding 2 more teams to the MLB. If, and this is an Omega long shot, if Seattle got a second team, put it in the National League, as you generally do if when there's 2 teams in one city, right? You put them one in the American League, one in the NL. Would you go over and root for that other team, or would you stick with the Mariners out of franchise loyalty?
No, I'd stick with the Mariners. I don't even like want it. I guess that's my simple answer. It's not even worth it to entertain it to me is the longer answer because there's just no universe. I think Seattle would get a second baseball team.
Yeah, it's never gonna happen, dude. Seattle's it's a cursed baseball city.
I actually think that if like Portland, Oregon, got a baseball team, I actually think that would be so bad for the Mariners.
Oh, me too.
If we're already acting like a poverty franchise.
Oh yes, dude. It's not even one of those like competition breeds success things. Like I would find myself probably rooting for Portland when Seattle wasn't playing.
It's not even like competition can't breed success because the Mariners have no interest from an organizational standpoint in competing. They would be more than happy to just fold and lie over and get their butts pounded by by whether it's a Vancouver franchise or a I don't mean the players when I say this. I mean the organization. I mean the people operating the team. They have no fight in them. That's really what the Kevin Mather. I'm tired of talking about Kevin Mather. This is the last time I'm going to say his name. This is what the Kevin Mather fiasco showed us.
Never spent more than $200 million in a season, right?
And there's no fight. I don't know. Anyways, next free agents. The only one else I put on here, I'll let you talk about the other ones. I thought it was notable that Roenis Elias signed a minor league deal. This dude's a boomerang.
Yeah,
we chuck him away and he just comes right back. This man, Roenis Elias is a living, operating boomerang. You cannot get rid of this guy. He's coming back. I love it.
I think it's one of those things that Jerry DiPoto and Scott Service and probably the pitching coach all fucking love this guy. I've never heard any one of those 3 dudes say a bad word about Ronnie.
The problem is I just don't see unless he makes it in the bullpen, I just don't see him as a pitcher. I don't know, like as a Seattle Mariner pitcher anymore. He's getting too old. The reality is the only thing he has now is his curveball.
Well, it was a pretty good curveball in 2019.
Yeah, it was, I like it. I guess I like him out of the bullpen. I like him out of the bullpen in small spurts. It's just one of those things where it's like, do I want Roenis Elias over giving a prospect a chance? I don't know, right?
Yeah.
Okay, tell me about these relievers. Tell me.
So,
the only person I know is Ken Giles. These other guys on here, like we talked about you wrote down the reliever hall. Kenyon Middleton, Rafael Montero, Domingo Tapia. The only name I know is Ken Giles. He was, I think he was a Royal, right, at one point? Maybe he was a Blue Jay?
Yeah, he was a Blue Jay, and he almost got reliever of the year with the team in, 2018, I believe. And then in 2019, he lost his season halfway through, and he's undergoing Tommy John surgery. So he's not actually going to be playing for the team in 2021. So they
interesting.
2-year contract. It's like a 2-year contract, and it's basically like a incentive play well in 2022 contract. And I think the intention is that, basically, if he looks good in spring, give him the closer job, because he is a goddamn not ace, but like a peak closer kind of guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the other guys, Keenan Middleton, Rafael Montero, Domingo Tapia, I don't remember which one of them was the free agent. The other two were trades. I was actually a little disappointed to see that they were trading for reliever arms, considering how many good ones were on the market in this offseason.
Well, and it was definitely a weakness of us last year, right?
Yes.
Like our worst unit last year, I would say without a doubt was our bullpen. So It's kind of disappointing to see that maybe Jerry didn't really go out and get an answer. It's like, I mean, and to be fair, we don't really need to answer this year. This is not the competition year. This is the see how we look year. As much as Scott Service,
what these guys really have, get as close of a look as possible, and try to sign them to a good contract, maybe for the next 2 or 3 years.
As much as Scott Service wants to sell the fans on a potential wild card berth, I mean, I think.
Well, if we expand on one of the big things Jerry Dipoto was talking about in this offseason, they never acquired that lefty bat that they wanted. And there was so many good ones on the market. I mean, I marked out Colton Wong, which I didn't think the Mariners would be getting because he's just a little too good for the Mariners at this point in their rebuild. He'd probably need like a 4-year, like Kyle Seager level $15 million contract, right? Or plus. And then there were other ones that were mentioned, like Eddie Rosario when he left the Twins, Kyle Schwarber when he got dropped from the Cubs, and David Dahl when the Colorado Rockies lost him. Obviously, Kyle Schwarber, Eddie Rosario, and David Dahl are all outfielders, so they don't totally fit with the goal that the Mariners want to go with. But they talked about getting this lefty bat to really help the lineup out against righties, and they just didn't do it. They just didn't add a single lefty bat to the organization.
You know why they didn't?
Why's that?
I saw it at spring training. In some pictures. No, it's Ichiro Suzuki. He laced it up. Ichiro laced him up. He's been out there at spring training. That's the lefty. That's the sweet lefty swing of Ichiro Suzuki. You know why go out and get someone when you've already got the guy?
I mean,
I kid, but
he only had one season batting under 300 in his entire career with the Mariners. Yeah, fucking put him out there. See if he hits another 300 season.
I mean, he's only like 50,000 years old. Why not?
Well, apparently he's still younger than than fucking Pujols. have you seen about the Pujols lying about his age thing?
No.
Oh, apparently like one of the LA Angels exec said that like they're almost certain that Pujols was lying about his age when he like signed that contract with them, based off of how quickly he regressed with them, right? Whatever, who cares? We're not an Angels podcast, but I think it's really funny.
All right. Anything else about any off-season stuff? I had some other stuff about the off-season trades that kind of went down with some of the other teams. I think we can probably save that until our power rankings at the end of the pod. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. It probably fits in better there.
Okay.
As far as the other free agents that we got, the only one we haven't talked about that was probably worth noting that I can think of is the KBO guy we were talking about, or I was mentioning earlier. It's this Chris Flexen guy. I don't know where he came from. I do know he had a really good year last year over in the KBO. And the KBO, if you remember, did play over 100 games.
So he's not Korean,
no,
I presume. Okay.
He was with a MLB organization, pitched two years or something at the majors, didn't do well. Like probably had like a 5+ ERA over those 2 years. Got quite a few starts, and they just kind of let him go. He went over to the KBO for a year, pitched his fucking heart out, and now he's with the Mariners. And I think he's number 4 guy on our starting roster.
I mean, as all I can say about him is as the operator of our Twitter account. Although we may need to discuss this. I may need you to do that a few more days. During the year, if you could handle the Twitter a little bit more. I cannot wait. I cannot wait to have. Well, you're gonna have to get it. It's time for you to step up your Twiter game and start running the Twitter account a little bit on some games. All I can say is that from our Twitter perspective, Chris Flexen, like, great name. Can't wait to draw some Flexen tweets. I love it.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's a jersey I would get if he turns out to be an ace, right? I would love to have a Mariners like.
Is this number
14? Flexen.
Is it number 14? I was kind of hoping it was like number 69 or something.
Oh, I have no idea.
Flexen 69. Come on, someone needs to talk to this guy. Let's get this jersey situation straightened out. All right, so Nick, tell me about the first week of spring training games.
There's not much more to say other than we got to see Kyle Lewis, Jared Kelenic, Mitch Haniger, J.P. Crawford, and Evan White mash some balls. Did all of them do that? Not all of them did, but
I loved. I've only seen highlights. I haven't actually got to watch a game of spring training. Obviously, seen the highlights. I loved how excited you were to tell me about Jared Kelenic mashing a homer while Scott Service was like, what was the quote? Like, oh, guys will tell us when they're ready. Guys will show us when they're ready.
He's literally scooting his booty around the service time Mather thing, and then all of a sudden you hear, crack! And then, like, literally, like an 0-2 count, Jared Kelenic just went deep. I will say it was a little bit of a fly ball. Maybe it did just get out of there because of the environment of the stadium.
That nice spring training environment. Balls be flying.
Yeah.
And then also in the first game, right? Didn't Julio walked him off with hitting in Jared Kelenic too?
Yeah, I'm not as excited about that as everyone else is. I don't know if you saw how that happened. Obviously, we didn't get to see it because it wasn't broadcasted game, but there was like an
iPhone video, yeah.
Yes. And it was just like a little looper past the first baseman, and the second baseman and the shortstop had already given up.
They all count though, right?
Go for it.
They all count. A little swibber gets through. That's all you need sometimes.
You're right. They do count, but you got to remember. So he hit this ball. He barely hit this ball past the pitcher in a 3-0 count after the pitcher had just walked 3 in a row. So, I mean, it's a walk-off, I guess.
All right. So, is it fair to say though that the most excited thing you've seen in spring training is Mitch Haniger back though?
Oh, absolutely, man. And just like the way everyone looks more athletic than they did last year. Especially J.P. Crawford's a guy they've been really hyping up and how he's put on more weight and he's ready to hit for power. Mm-hmm. He wants to be the new power hitting shortstop, like they all are right now.
Mm-hmm.
He needs to first make contact, which is really his problem. But I would definitely love to see it.
All right. I mean, it's definitely early. We'll see more as things go on. It's an exciting time. It's always, unfortunately, it's for the past 20 years. It's been some of the peak of our excitement is to see the young future Mariners get to put on the jersey in spring training. It seems like whether the Mariners want to or not, their hands are going to be forced, and we're going to see some of these guys. We're going to see a very young team again, I think, at the major league level.
Yep.
Come opening day.
Be Big Maple, probably.
Yeah, come opening day, and come opening day. It's gonna be interesting. I think a lot of these guys are gonna either have to be on the team or have forced their way onto the team or whatever the situation is. I guess the cure for everything is winning, though, right? If Scott Service and Scott Service has been on record saying, he thinks that people are going to be surprised by the Mariners this year. I don't know if that necessarily means they're going to make a postseason. I don't know. I haven't heard what's the intention of keeping the expanded postseason. Do we know if they're going back? Not doing it. That's too bad. I think that's a big mistake by Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
I think that's a big mistake. I think you should expand your playoffs and not for the Mariners' sake, but for baseball's sake. Having a 16-team postseason last year was awesome.
It was fun.
It was so awesome. So I guess
the series wild card stuff, awesome, really fun.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Loved it. Anyways, anything else you'd like to add about spring training?
I did, after I already talked about JP, I just totally realized I completely missed on Ty France, who looks really good. I mean, we already knew from last season that he could really swing the bat.
Yeah.
But he didn't lose it over the offseason.
That's great.
He's going to have a fantastic year.
That's awesome. I mean, honestly, it's like, oh god, the Mariners have so many good young players that I almost freaking forgot about Ty France.
Yeah.
Dude, I need to sit down and watch some spring training games because it's hard to just like get the highlights and check the box scores and everything.
They're fun games to watch. I really enjoyed watching the players. I will say the MLB.com broadcast, there hasn't been a Root Sports broadcast yet, so I'm really missing out on my Goldie. But we'll get there. I mean, we'll see regular season games, right? But the MLB broadcasts are like really like interview heavy, and I just want to sit down and listen to Dave Sims ramble on, Mike Blowers kind of be like, "Yeah, man, that's cool," and Goldie's like randomly throwing trivia and cracking wise with everyone.
Blowers get grumpy about shifts and rule changes and stuff. God, I miss that.
I miss it so much. Man.
God, I miss old man Blowers. Give it to me.
Tell me about the good old days, Blow.
All right. Speaking of the good old days, Nick, we're going to move into our review. Over the next 3 episodes, we are going to be discussing the Dorktown Seattle Mariners like mini-series, basically.
Yeah.
That SB Nation did with John Boyce and Alex Rubenstein. I've never seen these. You've seen them before, so I'm watching them for the first time. It's going to be a fun perspective to revisit these, for you to revisit.
Uh-oh, I lost you. Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yep, there you go. You're
Okay.
back.
Wild. The mixer just stopped working. I just had to unplug it and plug it back in. Anyways, as we were saying, the good old days, we're going to be reviewing these Dorktown miniseries in 3 parts, episode 1 and 2 today, next week, episodes 3 and 4, and then episodes 5 and 6 in 2 weeks from now. I think it's going to be awesome. You have a chance to revisit it, me a chance to watch it for the first time. If anyone hasn't seen it, I would recommend watching these before we go over them. Because it's been fantastic. I think the first thing, before we even talk about the Mariners aspect of it, and I haven't watched any of these guys' other stuff that they do, and I imagine it's all fantastic. I love the visual part of it. And I didn't really love it at first. I didn't love the visual stuff at first until they actually started breaking into the years and the calendar and adding stuff to it. I love kind of like filling out the calendar as you kind of like go along and talk about stuff. Love that visually. Works beautiful. The music is so good. The synthy music, I've enjoyed these first 2 episodes as much as anything I've watched recently. These guys are great documentarians in the way that they present stuff. It's as good as any documentary series you'd see on Netflix or anything like that. Cannot recommend it enough.
I'm honored that they chose the Mariners.
Yeah, it's not. I was gonna say it's nice to get some positive press, and as we're gonna get into here, clearly it's not all positive. But
especially
at least
the first episode.
At least when it's not positive.
All negative.
At least when it's not positive, though, it's humorous. Like, if we can't make you happy in a good way, at least we can make you laugh. And it's kind of nice. I actually get a good feeling, even though a lot of this stuff I didn't necessarily know. It's nice that the world, and we're obviously late to visiting these. They've been out for a few years now. It's nice that the world gets to see the kind of like lovable goofiness of the Mariners that
Especially in the early years.
that we know really well, right?
Yeah.
And to some extent, one thing I've noticed about like seeing the follies of the early Seattle Mariners is that I don't think things have really changed that much.
No.
There's still there's still a goofy organization to this day. So the first episode, super fun. It broke down essentially the origins of the Seattle Mariners, starting off with the what would become the Seattle Pilots and how the Seattle Pilots first came about, to then the Seattle Mariners, and essentially how the stadium debacles in Seattle kind of played into that. Obviously started off the first thing that I even knew about. I don't even know if you knew about this, Nick. Sick Stadium.
Yes, I didn't know about that, but I love the name. If they make another stadium, they better name it Sick, dude.
Sick Stadium, great name, hilarious. They mentioned in the episode that Lowe's, that is now the site of the Sick Stadium. Do you know what company is across the street from that Lowe's?
I don't know. No.
PepsiCo Seattle.
Really?
Yes, I worked and I knew about Sick Stadium, and obviously our dad worked at Pepsi for a long time. I worked winters working in the Seattle PepsiCo plant and I actually parked in a structure that's part of that, like that Lowe's has a parking structure for their employees and Seattle's employees, the Seattle Pepsi employees in that area. That's on that site. So I actually parked my car every day where Sick Field used to be, basically.
Speaking of Sick Field, I loved hearing about how there was a huge plumbing problem.
Oh yeah, that's gross. I didn't really need to know that. It's funny that it fits with the name though, right?
I didn't know that, but it fits the name so well.
And then that was kind of a fun. That was something that if you asked Dad about, he'd be able to tell you. It's kind of a fun piece of trivia that he worked next to Sick Field, basically, because that Lowe's that's there is actually just across the street from Pepsi, and so I don't know. It was fun to me just because I already knew that connection. I already knew about the history that the Pilots had with Sick Field and kind of the disasters that went along with it and its location and kind of how unceremoniously that they pulled up, I think, the Google Maps view of that cutout of the player standing at home plate. I mean, that's still there. They kind of joked about that eventually an employee will get sick of it and move it. I don't think that's ever going to happen because I think it's actually the idea, the kind of laughing stock that Sick Field is kind of like lovingly cherished from that area. And so I don't know. It's just kind of a fun thing. That's our own personal connection to that. Then also the Pilots, as I knew it was coming the whole time. There's actually a really cool, if anything to see about the Pilots that's actually really cool is that Miller Park, well, formerly Miller Park, now American Family Field, which I think is hilarious. The Brewers play at Miller Park, lost that name. Now they're going to be gross, American Family Field. They actually have a kind of like museum. It's more like a Bud Selig museum because obviously Commissioner Emirates, Bud Selig, used to be the commissioner of baseball, was the person that brought the Milwaukee Brewers essentially back to Milwaukee by buying the Portland Pilots out of bankruptcy. There's actually a cool museum that's in former Miller Park that has a lot of Pilot stuff in it because, those early Milwaukee years when he brought the team back, he actually really cherished that. And, they ended up making a museum out of it. There's some cool Seattle Pilots stuff in that museum, actually. So if anyone's ever in Milwaukee, that you have a chance to go see some of that Seattle Pilots stuff.
You've been to that?
Yeah, it's in the park. It's in Miller Park. So if you're at a game at Miller Park, you can just go through. It's called like the Bud Selig Experience or something like that. You can just go through that, and they have some Seattle Pilots stuff in it. It's pretty cool.
Nice.
It's sad. I don't.
I think you just said that 2 times and it just flew right over my head.
No, it's all good. It's all good. It's one of those things they didn't exactly mention because the video's not about the Pilots, really. It's about the history of Seattle baseball, and obviously who cares about the Milwaukee Brewers in that context, but there is a cool Bud Selig Experience Museum in Milwaukee, in American Family Field. Lol. And then, so anything about the Pilots, after the Pilots moved into the 80s, and I knew that the 80s Mariners were bad. The 80s Mariners, I don't know. What's worse? Is it the 2000s and 2010 Mariners or the 80s Mariners? I haven't got to the 2010 Mariners, so I'm not sure how they're going to compare that in the perspective. You know, that post 2001, how they compare that to from the tragedy of these last 20 years to the 80s.
Well,
but like,
I mean, I don't look at the the early 2000s Mariners teams with a lot of resentment. Obviously, I wasn't following the teams as closely as I was now, so I couldn't be as disappointed with them as I.
Well, we were just so much younger, and the thing is that they had made the playoffs right in 2001, and so it's like they were just shortly removed from that. From the amazing 2001 year, 116 wins, they're just so shortly removed from that. I would assume, like in the 2000s, there couldn't have been that like resentment built up, although the team was essentially destroyed by Bavasi and by I'm blanking on his name now. The GM after him, Zarenzik?
I don't know off the top of my head.
I think Jack Zarenzik. I think that's his name. We'll see when we get there. I might have blocked these guys out. All the terrible trades they made and how they destroyed the farm system and the Mariners organization have kind of blocked it out. So it'll be fun to revisit it. I obviously know that they're going to be talking about it. It's going to come up obviously when they talk about the 2000s Mariners. But it was kind of interesting to see the parallels and how, to some extent, even though there's new team ownership, no players are the same. Really, the 80s Mariners could not be any more disconnected from the 90s Mariners and on. Like, it seems like from the 90s to today, 2010, those 30 years could not be any less connected to the 80s Mariners. I still feel like I see parallels. Like, there's some things that kind of like come up, like buffoonery. I think the Mariners can be kind of like a silly team sometimes, and we talked about like they mentioned the player that like blew on the baseball to make it go foul, which to some extent, like, dude, what? Let the players blow the ball foul. Like, come on, is that really a rule? That should be. That's criminal. That it's a rule that you're not allowed to not touch the baseball but blow the ball foul. You should be allowed to do that. If you can pull it off, it should work. But the fact that the player who did it, that third baseman, said he yelled at the ball and used ESP to move the ball, brilliant.
Also,
that is classic Mariners buffoonery. If that is Mariners baseball, if I've ever seen it before.
He was a full-time player. He would spend his nights at comedy clubs performing. Like this dude, like, what a joke.
Yeah, I mean, that is. I don't know. You could take that guy and put him on the 2013 Mariners, and that would fit right in. Like, just, 2000s Mariners buffoonery. That's what it is. The Mariners have not changed. That's my thesis of kind of what I learned from this first episode, is really the Mariners that I know in the 2000s and 2010s have not changed that much from the 80s. Yeah. I mean, think about the cheating that went on. There was all sorts of talk about, and obviously the Mariners do it less nowadays, but we don't talk about this enough. The Mariners, even today, have been caught up in some of the biggest cheating things where we talk about like Robinson Cano taking steroids, Jesus Montero taking steroids. The Mariners are not... They're never talked about it in terms of being big cheaters, because they've never been successful. Like, if they had the success of the Yankees, right, and Alex Rodriguez, if they had that same success that came from that steroid era and that steroid use, the Mariners will be talked about in the exact same way and be hated for being big cheaters. The fact of the matter is the Mariners have only gotten away with their cheating ways because they've been the laughingstock of baseball, right? They're not relevant. And I think one thing I said that they said in this episode is no one really hated the Mariners. They just weren't thought about. And that was like it's kind of funny because that's how the Mariners get away with so much, right?
It's actually more insulting than people hating them.
It is more insulting than people hated them, because at least if they hate them for a reason. They hate them maybe because they're even good, right? Because they're winning.
Yeah, like the
that's
just like, I remember they talked very briefly about a guy who like basically covered his whole hand in pine tar.
Yeah. Or like the one guy that cut the
actually-
baseball. He attached the tack to his finger to cut the baseball.
Yeah.
Like the Mariners nowadays, like they obviously cheated back then. I don't think the Mariners are a saint organization now anyways. They have a history of players cheating and using steroids and doing stuff like that, and like every team has it, but I don't think enough people criticize the Mariners, and I think they don't criticize them because the Mariners aren't relevant.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Sorry, I don't mean to yawn. No, I've been up all night, but I got up really early this morning. But yeah, I don't really know what to say about the early Mariners because obviously I wasn't alive then. Other than what a joke organization. The entire time I'm watching that first episode, and I'm like, this sucks. This is just it's a punch in the gut from before I was a baby.
The problem is that it doesn't even feel like things have changed. That's the thing that stood out the most to me is that I saw so many parallels between those 80 Mariners and the Mariners, maybe not the Mariners of today, but the Mariners of the 2010s. So many parallels. I kind of hope that the Mariners of the 2020s are distancing themselves from that, but there's so many parallels of just like being a joke or being irrelevant that I see it. I see like past is future is present. It's all the same, right? We're living in one continuous cycle. That's what it made me think about how I felt about the Mariners. Is that there's nothing has really changed. Time is one big circle. Like I don't know. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, definitely. I did really like how they immediately moved on from the first episode to the second episode, and they're just like, it's Griffey time, baby.
Yes, the second episode was all about Griffey. I don't think I have as much to say about this episode. I think it was just fun. It's fun to hear about Ken Griffey Jr. I don't know where he ranks for you personally, but all my like usernames that I use, I've used Griffey as a username many times. When I use my own usernames, I put the number 24 at the end of it. I've actually had, Gabby ask me, she's like, oh, do you put 24 because you were born on October 24th? The 24th is your birthday? I was like, no, 24 is my number because it was Griffey's number. Yeah. I love Ken Griffey Jr. I don't know if they're going to get to this, but I was at one of the last games that Griffey played as a Mariner when he came back the second time. I'm going to be honest, I cried like a little baby when he took some of his final at bats, and the last time I saw him play in person, I cried like a little baby, kind of like how I cried 2 years ago on Felix's last night. Like, and I would say personally for me, Felix is probably the most important Mariner for me, my favorite Mariner of all time. But Griffey is, and I think it's part of it is because I grew up more with Felix, whereas like I heard the legend and experienced the legend of Ken Griffey Jr., and that was always like that was by the time that we were old enough, right? The legend of Ken Griffey was the past. We had Ken Griffey Jr. baseball for the PlayStation and stuff like that, but even then, by the time that we really knew the Mariners, that Griffey was already the past. I think that's why Felix is more important to me, and I'm greatly looking forward to the future episodes that discuss Felix. I'm sure he's going to, take center stage. But Griffey was just, tour de force in baseball. Even now today on my Zoom profile, I use that everyone sees when I don't have my Zoom turned on at work or whatever is a picture of Ken Griffey Jr. And it's just like he's such a legend. He's just so pervasive. And one thing that they didn't mention, because it's one of those things that you can't really prove, that I firmly believe that Ken Griffey Jr. is the only great player of his era to not use steroids. And I believe without a doubt in my mind that Ken Griffey Jr. was a clean baseball player. And I'm kind of actually disappointed they didn't bring this up because Ken Griffey Jr. was a superstar who played clean in an era where everyone was cheating.
Absolutely.
And to me, that's one of the most amazing things about him, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you hear other players talk about Ken Griffey Jr. and they almost say, like, there's no way he was cheating just based off of how his body, like, worked and how it looked. Like, you look at these, like the guys talk about Giambi, and they're just like, he looked like mostly water weight. Like, he was very obviously.
Yeah, he's very skinny. It was all about clean mechanics. It was always all about his speed and everything like that. He didn't. You're right. He didn't have the body of a steroid user.
He wasn't loaded like a steroid guy.
And we know too that he would have gotten big like that because as he got older on Cincinnati, he came back to the Mariners, lost his physique.
Yep.
His young man physique. His body did bulk out and he looked bigger. So it's like it's clearly. If he was using steroids back then, he would have bulked out like he did when he was older.
Yeah,
you know, and focused more on power and less on contact and less on speed and all that, right? As in his later years in Cincinnati and his return to the Mariners. So
very clearly had a fantastic feel for the sport in general, and he was probably a once in a generational player, kind of like how we see Mike Trout now, right?
Yeah. I just think it is, I think back and, think about a few years ago, like when he was inducted into the Hall of Fame and when Edgar was inducted, like, I think it is really special as poorly represented as the Mariners are in the history of baseball. We're so lucky, and what it reminded me that the Ken Griffey Jr. episode, how lucky the Mariners were to have someone like Griffey to bridge the gap at minimum, right? To bring the Mariners into relevancy, into a new age of baseball,
absolutely.
Right?
And I love how they talked about, it wasn't just Griffey either. Like, the miracle it took for Safeco to be built cannot be exaggerated enough. Because it didn't just take Griffey, it took Griffey, Edgar, the rising superstar, which was A-Rod, and arguably one of the greatest pitchers of all time with Randy Johnson, and then like the fan favorite Jay Buhner. Like, this is one of the best core teams ever put together, and it couldn't have come for a better time for Seattle baseball, right?
Yeah, and I kind of think that's probably where they're going, right? So the episode ended, episode 2 ended with the vote for the new stadium, whether or not they were going to pay for it, and it had like just failed right as the Mariners were making the playoffs, I think in like 95 or whatever. And so it's kind of interesting. They haven't really broken down the team more than Griffey. Yeah, they mentioned Buhner, but they haven't really talked about A-Rod or any of the other core players yet.
I might have just spoiled a little bit of episode.
Yeah, I mean, I know Mariner baseball though. It's kind of hard for you to spoil. You can't really spoil it for me. I've already lived it.
Yeah, you lived through it. Yeah.
But yeah, it's gonna be. I don't know. I'm excited to watch more about this. I think me personally, because of how I feel about the late 2000s and 2010 Mariners, I'm maybe more excited for that. But it was nice to get to revisit, someone that I personally hold in such reverence, like Ken Griffey Jr. is.
Oh yeah,
really nice to revisit him in this episode.
He's such a legend to me. I mean, then obviously I was born in '96, and so just hearing about these like unbelievable, like superhuman seasons that he had while I was like neither not born yet or just unable to comprehend anything going on is like it's unfathomable to me to like think that this absolute superstar was here.
Yeah.
While I was barely crawling around the earth, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm very excited. Unless you have anything else to add, episodes 1 and 2, A+, love them. Probably, I think I enjoyed. I want to say I actually enjoyed the first episode more because it was less of what I knew about Mariners baseball. Obviously, the second episode was great too regarding Griffey. But I think if I had to say,
enjoyed the second one better.
Really, I think if I had to choose right now, I enjoyed learning new things about the Mariners from the first episode. And me just sitting. It's like when I clicked on the episode and I saw the title is "This is not an endorsement of arson." I was kind of like, what am I getting into? And I've loved it from first pitch. Basically, I'm very excited for the next 2 episodes. We will visit them next week. We'll be covering episodes 3 and 4, so watch those. Very excited to talk about them. let's wrap this up, Nick. Get into our game here. I know you wanted to do our top 10, our first things back for season 3 of the Corner of Edgar and Dave podcast, our top 10 team power rankings going into this new year.
And
are you ready?
For this game, we're both going to be choosing our teams individually.
Yes. So it's not a consensus one. It's going to give.
No,
well, I think we'll.
It's just us having fun. Probably disagreeing a lot.
How do we want to do it? We want to start if we just both give number 10, then both give number 9, and kind of talk our way through them.
So sounds like you put more thought into this after I brought it up than I did. I think it would be easier for me to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
You want to start at? You want to start at number 1?
Yeah, it's a little anticlimactic, but that's the way I'm thinking about going.
Okay, I'm fine with that. Okay.
And so I brought you the game idea, and I want to hear what you say first. What's your number? What's the best team in baseball for you?
I kind of think you're going to give me a different answer, but I really don't think there's an argument with their performance last year, and who they've brought onto their team this year, and who they're bringing back. It's the Los Angeles Dodgers. So the way, just to kind of spoil it, I broke it down. Essentially, my bracket is going to look very much like a playoff bracket. Okay. Except for the fact that I think I included 6 teams. Wait, 10 team, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I think I included 6 teams from the NL and 4 teams from the AL. But I essentially had my 6 division winners, and then I think the next 4 best teams. So I have the Dodgers, and the reason I put the Dodgers number 1 is because I have them winning the National League West, and I have them winning the World Series again this year. They obviously are bringing back a great team. They probably have, they have the best player in the National League on their team in Mookie Betts. They have
behind by Cody Bellinger.
Yeah, they also have Cody Bellinger. I mean, they're stacked. Like, I remember on opening, the Dodgers have not lost anything. They've only added. And I remember on opening day last year watching the lineups be revealed. On opening day, the Giants played the Dodgers, and they were reading off the Dodgers lineup, and I'm like, how does this team lose a game? And you know what, Nick?
The exact same thing.
They barely lost any games last year. I mean, it was only a 60 game. It was only a 60 game season last year. I think they only lost like 13 games or something like that. They had an amazing year last year, culminating in a world championship. These are the world championship Dodgers that handedly won this thing last year, and they've only gotten better. They added our boy Trevor Bauer. And they've also, you know who else they're essentially adding, right? They added David Price, who sat out last year.
That's true. I never thought about that. I mean, David Price is a player to me who's been on the decline for a
But even then, if David Price is your 5th best pitcher, aren't you feeling pretty good?
Yeah, that's very true.
I don't know how there's a better... I mean, obviously, baseball is one of those sports where nothing is guaranteed. I don't know how there's a better team in baseball next year than the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've kind of given away my top pick as well. It's the Dodgers. I remember talking to my dad, like you said, I remember talking to Dad this time last year and saying, I think the Dodgers are one of the best teams of all time.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the Padres is number 1. I thought you said you were going to surprise me. I thought you were going to put the Padres number 1.
No, I'm not. That's not my surprise, but
okay.
So I mean, I think the Dodgers, the 2020 Dodgers were one of the best teams of all time. Honestly, all they did was add upgrades. I could see this team going for 117 wins. This team is so good. Yeah. I don't think they'll actually do it, but I do think they will have a legitimate shot this time September.
I mean, the only thing that's going to stop them is that I think they probably play in the best National League division.
Yes.
And they have the young guns on their tail. Not that the Dodgers are old. They're not. They have great young players. Yeah, but they have probably, not to spoil too much, but I think they have the 2nd best team in the National League
I agree.
In their division, nipping at their tails, right?
100%. Actually, I think number 1 and number 2, we're just unanimous. I don't think anybody in baseball who's really been paying attention this offseason would consider anybody but these two teams the number 1 or number 2 team, respectively, however you want to put it, right?
In the National League.
I think in all of baseball.
Ooh, okay. Moving on. My number 2 team is the New York Yankees.
Oh my, fuck you.
I believe the New York Yankees will win the American League East. I believe the New York Yankees will win the American League pennant, and then they will lose to the Dodgers in the World Series.
Yeah, okay. Why not? Let's just put the two money balls against each other in the World Series.
Well, here's the thing. We mentioned it. I mentioned it to you earlier, Nick. There's only 5 teams that are trying to win baseball games. And the thing is that the 2 teams that are trying to win the most happen to be the 2 best teams. It's not a secret to figure out how to become a good baseball team. You try and win games.
You throw money at superstars.
You try and win, but even then, like, they've had guys that they've brought up. I mean, look at Aaron Judge. Look at, like, the Yankees are not the same Yankees that we make fun of from, like, the 90s and everything like that, right?
They're not. I mean, they got even, like, their lesser. Their farm system is fantastic. Gleyber Torres, Miguel Andujar.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could even say Brett Gardner's one of their guys, right? He spent his whole career there. I don't know if he came up. I mean, obviously that's 15 years ago. Who knows at this point? But
yeah, and so if I look at the Yankees, I think the Yankees are pretty stacked. They have again, when I'm reading down a lineup of players, when I look through a lineup and I look through the Dodgers lineup, no weaknesses. I look through the Yankees lineup, I also think no weaknesses. 1 through 9, I'm terrified of that lineup.
And even their pitching and their bullpen, it's just fucking almost.
Yeah, they just added Corey Kluber this offseason. The Yankees did. They just added Jameson Talion, however you pronounce his last name, to the rotation. Is it Tyon? I don't know. I've never heard his name pronounced. I've only read it. They re-signed DJ LeMahieu, huge re-signing for them.
Huge.
I think they're gonna run, and they play in a bad division. Maybe not as bad as some. Like I think top to bottom the AL Central is the weakest division. Maybe the NL divisions are very weak.
No way. I think the Central's actually kind of stacked, man. Like,
okay, that'll be interesting going on then. But I think the AL East, I think the Yankees don't have anyone. I mean, I think the Red Sox are going to be bad again. I know the Orioles are going to be bad again. I'm not convinced that the Blue Jays are really going to be a 500 team. Like, I think they could have 3 teams below 500 in their division. Like, the Yankees are going to run away with this thing. Can the Rays keep up with them? They just traded away their best pitcher.
Yeah.
So to me, the Yankees run away with it. I think the reality is I think the Yankees are going to be at the top with the Dodgers all year in the power rankings because they're going to rack up a gross record. They're going to win 100+ games. They're going to run away with it because they have no one to fight them, I think.
Yeah, my number 2 is the Padres. I'm sticking to it even after hearing what you said. I did go ahead and do my power rankings a little differently. My power rankings are at the moment. So how I decided to do mine, or the thought I put into mine was, which teams were the best last year, and which of those teams upgraded, like only got better. And so, I think number 1 and number 2. In my IMO, have to be the Dodgers and the Padres, but I do see exactly where you're coming from with the Yankees.
I do have the Padres as the number 3 best team. I don't have them as a divisional winner.
Okay.
I do not have them as a divisional winner this year. They're going to have to fight through the wild card, and it's going to be kind of gross because of this, the Dodgers and the Padres are going to be playing a 5-game series in the divisional round.
What? That actually happens.
What?
I said that's going to be a slugfest if that actually happens.
That's just so it's really gross. Like, there's no reason that the Dodgers and Padres should not be playing each other for the pennant. But like, it's just unfortunate that the way that baseball works out and the way that we could fix this if we had a larger, more inclusive playoffs. But the reality is the way it works out, the Padres are going to be maybe have the second best record in the National League, and they're going to have to play a 1-game playoff to then play a 5-game series against the Dodgers. It's disgusting.
Ridiculous.
It's disgusting. Like, how could anyone watch? This is off topic. How could anyone watch the playoffs last year in baseball and not think that that system is 1,000 times better than what we have now?
Oh yeah, I loved it. I didn't get to watch the World Series because I was blacked out for those for some reason. I literally couldn't tell you why. But I watched basically every other game of the playoffs, and I was having the time of my life. Going from watching like the Mariners make a run at the playoffs into watching all these fantastic teams.
Well, and we got to watch baseball all day during those divisional rounds. They had baseball. They had baseball from noon until midnight. It was wonderful. I just don't know how they could have watched what happened last year and been like, "Yeah, we don't want that system. Let's have the Padres in a 1-game playoff with the freaking Braves," and then
they politicsed it, and they sandwiched all of the changes from 2020 into a bundle, and they said there's no DH unless you want to expand the playoffs. There's no expanded playoffs unless you want a shortened season. Or not shortened season, but it was like the extra inning rules or whatever.
I think it's a mistake.
Really dumb.
Anyways, let's move on to the Padres. My number 3 team, your number 2 team. Tell me about the Padres. Tell me about the Friars. Tell me about the Fathers.
Wow, there's so much to talk about with the Friars, man. Obviously, signing Fernando Tatis Jr. to this omega contract extension could be one of the best signings of all time, and could also be a crash and Chris moment. It's too early to tell. Obviously, he's only played like 60 games at the major league level or whatever. But he looks like a goddamn superstar, and they built around the flaw they had, which was their starting pitching last year, which wasn't even that bad. Their ace was Dilson Lamet.
They didn't even build around it. They bought around it. They traded around that thing.
Yeah, that's right. They fixed the hole, which wasn't even really a hole, because like I said, Dilson Lamet is an ace.
Yeah.
And now he's their number 3 pitcher.
Yeah, that guy was terrifying.
And Blake Snell. What the fuck is that top? I literally can't get enough of that. Honestly, if the Mariners traded for all 3 of those guys next year, even a year after what they are now, I would still be thrilled about getting to see those guys 3 days in a row.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty busted, right? Like, I appreciate, again, probably the number 3 team that said, hey, we actually want to win baseball games. and it's not surprising to see why they're number 3 in the power rankings for me, number 2 for you. Like, they have, I don't think their lineup is as infallible. I will say this, their lineup's not as infallible as I think the Yankees and the Dodgers are.
Yes, I do think there are a couple guys on there who are definitely overvalued. Talking about Hosmer and the other dude who like kind of overperformed a while back, then got kind of a big contract, and then has sucked nuts since. I can't remember.
Will Myers?
Yes, Will Myers. Not even that good of a power hitter.
Yeah, well, and he doesn't even have a position now because because
no DH.
No DH, and they had to move him to outfield because when they signed Hosmer at first base, I think lineup wise they're kind of a mess. They are going to be carried by the fact that
their pitching is amazing.
I mean, their pitching's amazing, and when you have Tatis Jr. and as much as I hate him, Manny Machado, that's just gonna get you. It's just gonna get you there, right?
And I believe their center fielder Cronenworth almost got NL Rookie of the Year.
And didn't they have the Cronenworth? That's almost got. Didn't he get NL? He was the Rookie of the Year in the NL, right?
Oh, he might have been. Yeah.
I think it was him and Kyle Lewis. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot to love about the Padres. Again, it's like you said, they just did nothing but improve. What did they lose? The Padres, they lost nothing. What did they traded away for Snell?
They might have lost was George Kirby. Did they lose Kirby? I don't know.
I mean,
I'm
they
so impressed by what else they did. I couldn't tell you.
they obviously have hurt their farm, right? They had to trade away for Yu Darvish for Blake Snell.
I mean, not really.
But
Did you see those trades? Dude, those guys, that was a fire sale. They basically didn't trade anything away. Dude, the Mariners got more for Austin Nola.
well, yes, that's what I was gonna say. That's because
For Darvish.
yeah, they had already traded away the prospects that people would really want. The Taylor Trammell, the Ty France, like yeah, they already did it, right?
It's just insane that they got these deals, and that's.
But it's because if you think if like it goes back to what I said at the beginning of this, those other teams are not trying to win. They don't care.
Not.
They don't care that they traded away nothing for Blake Snell. The Cubs don't care that they traded away nothing for Yu Darvish. Like the Padres are taking advantage in a smart way of a broken system, and that they can go out and get really good players for not a lot of value, right?
Yep.
But yeah, okay. Padres number 3 for me, number 2 for you. Who'd you have at number 3?
God damn. I'm gonna go with the safe bet and say the Yankees. I don't really have anything more to add than what you added.
Oh yeah,
They're just one of the most complete teams in all of baseball. They have been for like 3 or 4 years, and not including them in like your top 3 would be just.
Yeah.
It's just rude.
It sounds good. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. It's a matter of semantics. I think both of us feel pretty good that that's probably gonna be the 1, 2, 3 the whole year from wire to wire. Those are just probably the 3 best teams. Those are the 3 teams that I think.
Do you think this is where we're gonna diverge from each other?
I think a World Series champion is probably gonna come from those 3 teams.
Yeah, possible.
Number 4 for me is the Mets.
Solid. Tell me why
who do you have? Do you have the Mets anywhere? Do you have them at number 4 or?
Oh man, I don't know. It's such a toss-up for me between specifically the Mets and the White Sox. Oh, I'm gonna go White Sox.
Okay, so you have White Sox at number 4. I'll start with the Mets. So the Mets are another one of those teams that I don't know if unproven is the word. I think that the Mets underperformed last year, and they were hurt by a couple guys that did not perform up to their standard. One that I think of is our boy Sugar Diaz. Has struggled since he left the Mariners. I don't think that's going to last forever. I think he's going to be able to solidify the bullpen for them. I think one thing about the Mets, similar to what I talked about the Yankees in the AL East, I think the Mets are going to be the National League East champions by a wide margin. I think they potentially could win 100 games again because I really think from the Nationals, Phillies, Braves, and Marlins, I don't think there's anyone really to compete with them.
Wow, I actually changed my answer. I think the 4th best team in baseball right now is actually Georgia, Atlanta. I think, like just hearing you talk about it, I just think you're wrong. I just think Atlanta is just a proven better team.
Yeah. Okay. So going back to the Mets, what they added. Obviously, they traded huge trades. Traded for Francisco Lindor. Traded for Carlos Carrasco from the Indians. They had some great signings. James McCann. They've just put all the pieces together, and honestly, the metrics also really favor the Mets. And part of that is because the Braves that you just mentioned, the Braves are actually expected to finish 4th. And I'll as a spoiler, I have the Braves 8th on my list. I have the Braves as a wild card team. I have them 8th in the power rankings because, like you just said, they have so much potential talent. However, the stats hate the Braves. The stats actually have the Braves finishing 4th in the division.
Wow.
And I can't
agree with that.
I can't wrap my head around it. That's why I still kept the Braves in my research. I kept them on my power rankings in the 8th spot. I think that the Braves are going to take that second wild card in the National League. But I really think that the Mets have done what they needed to do. to add a new team. I think with the sale of the team, they've brought new life into the franchise. I think there's going to be a lot of excitement to watch about the Mets, and I think they might have got their superstar,
Yeah.
In Francisco Lindor, and they just added, think about how good that rotation already is. Noah Syndergaard, Jacob deGrom. They added Carlos Carrasco to that. Every team that we've talked about, we didn't talk about the Yankees. We didn't talk
overvaluing their pitching rotation because Thor isn't going to be playing this year. He's undergoing Tommy John surgery.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, well, I still think they have a good. I mean, just Carlos Carrasco and Jacob deGrom by themselves. I mean, if we talk about all the teams that we already talked about, the Dodgers, the Padres in the National League, they have great pitching staffs. And I think the Mets are going to be able to do that. I think the Mets have, one of the most exciting young players in baseball in Pete Alonso. They also have that veteran presence. I mean, we know how good Robinson Cano is, and Robinson Cano is not bad.
Robinson Cano is also not on that team anymore.
Wait, he's gone?
He got suspended for PEDs again in the offseason.
Oh, he's going to miss a whole year?
He's going to miss a whole 200 days, and I believe that is the rest of his contract.
Well, okay.
So the Seattle Mariners, I don't actually know how it ended up turning out, but went to the MLB and were like, hey, we traded Cano with $20 million. He's not playing. We don't want to pay him $20 million to not pay, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't actually know how that ended up turning out, but Cano will not be playing for the Mets this year.
Okay. Well, obviously, so he's not going to be there. Syndergaard's not going to be there. I mean, I guess I don't know the whole story about the Mets, but I know that there's a lot of excitement around them. I kind of think that they're going to be... I think their division's so bad that they're going to be, good. They're actually, the projections favor them, and that's why I like the Mets, I guess. I see what they brought in. I see what the Mets have brought in, and the projections kind of back that up.
I see what you're talking about with projectionists, but I think that the NL West is the Thunderdome. I think it has four of the best that you could put an argument to put them anywhere on your top 10 list between the Mets.
The NL West?
Yeah.
Or the NL East?
I'm sorry, did I say the wrong division?
Are you talking about the East? Okay. Really? Okay, you're going to have to explain this one to me because I think that the Nationals, Phillies, and Marlins are actually trash.
I think the Mets look on paper to be one of the strongest teams in baseball this year. So I do think that number 4 is a pretty decent placement for them. I think the A's are criminally Braves. I think the Braves are criminally underrated by these projectionists that you're talking about. I mean, you look at guys in each of their positions, and they're all goddamn proven superstars. You see their closer is Will Smith. You see one of the best rising talent pitchers in the game with Mike Soroka. On the bump, you see Freddie Freeman, first baseman, who might have gotten the NL MVP last year, if I'm not wrong. Maybe he was runner-up. Sorry. And then their outfield with Acuna Jr. is unbelievable talent. They got Chris Pache coming up.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a mistake in the projections because you're right. Freddie Freeman, Ronald Acuna, Marcelo Ozuna, Ozzy Albies, Max Fried, Charlie Morton, Mike Soroka. They obviously have great players. Apparently, projections hate them.
I can't see them not being a top 5 team. It just the math doesn't work. So I'm gonna say they're my number 4 team, and I would say they might even. Well, here, I don't know the top 5 teams for me. I'm gonna spoil it and say the Mets. I'm actually putting them ahead of the White Sox. You've changed my opinion.
So you have them at 5.
Number 5 team.
Okay.
Yeah. But I think any of these top 5 teams are unbelievable talent at so many different positions that I could see a case for any of these 5 teams are being the number 2 team, other than the Dodgers being the number 1 team. So 2, 3, 4, and 5 could be intermixed between the Mets, the Braves, the Yankees, and the Padres.
Yeah, so I have the Braves at 8, and I kind of mentioned it already. I have them at 8 because I'm confused.
Yeah.
Because I see everything that you see. I see these great players, these names that I know. I'm just missing the rest of their team. I know maybe they should be number 1 because Felix is going to be starting for them this year.
No, he's actually on the Orioles.
Oh, he's over to the Orioles now? God damn, what is happening to baseball?
He opted out of 2020.
Right.
And then they released him, and then he got picked up for a minor league contract. Or no, major league contract with the Orioles. So he will be pitching and he will be on the roster for 162 days. So there will be Felix in the MLB this year.
Felix may pitch in Seattle yet again.
Yep.
All right, so I have the Braves at 8th, and I have them at 8 because I'm confused, because I know they're good, but I hear they're bad. So I have them at 8th in my power rankings. I have them as the second wild card team in the National League.
So who's your number 5?
I want to talk about number 5 and number 6 together because, again, I don't know the difference between these two teams. If you took everything, if you put these two teams in front of me and it was just their like numbers and their teams, I don't know what's going to happen. It's the Astros. I have 5th. I have them. I have the Astros winning the American League. And this is maybe a sign of a show of faith in the Astros. I hate them as an organization. They're fucking criminals. But they've been too good for too long. I can't tank them yet. I have them 5th and winning the American League West, and I also have their challengers this year, the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim.
Oh, really?
in the sixth spot.
Angels are a top 10 team. I want to hear about this. Let's go. I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I think the Angels still fucking suck. No way. I would put them as maybe like 13, 14, 15, somewhere around there.
So I hate the Angels. As I've hated the Angels for a long time. I've hated them. The only team that's taken that over is my hate of the Astros because of the scandal.
Okay.
But the Angels I hate. But the Angels I respect. And I respect guys like Mike Trout, like Anthony Rendon. And I think that they have a good enough core around that. With the pitching that they brought on with I think this is going to be a big year for Shohei Ohtani, as much as I hate him for not choosing the Mariners. Again, I respect him, right? I as much as I hate the Angels, I just respect the hell out of them. And I think that this is the year. And maybe this is my big kind of like gamble, I think, on my list here, and this might be a showing of faith that the Mike Trout's greatness will not be wasted. I think the Astros are number 5 for me. Going back to the Astros are number 5 for me because, and this is maybe also a showing of good faith. Again, I guess I kind of mentioned it, right? They obviously lost Justin Verlander. They lost George Springer. But they still have Bregman. They still have Altuve. They still have Carlos Correa. They had down years last year, but I'm going to have to see them fail again before I give up on the Astros, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, why not? I agree. I understand what you're saying.
And so,
watching them win 2017, I understand it.
I'm not locked in. I actually think it's possible that this is the year the Angels win the American League West. But I'm going to give it to the Astros for now, and I think the Angels are going to be nipping on their tails. The one team I do not like at all, I believe that this team will join the Rangers and the Mariners at under 500 on the season, is going to be the A's.
Wow.
I don't see any. I look at the A's, I really don't see anything I like. And honestly, the numbers back it up. There's big projections on dip-offs for guys, Probably
Matt Olson.
Yeah, for all of their good players, there's big projected drop-offs, and then they also lost important guys for them. Like they traded Chris Davis, they lost Marcus Semien, they lost Kyle Hendricks. Like, I don't.
Kyle Hendricks, you're right.
Yeah, I don't see it for the A's. I think the A's are going to be an under 500 team this year.
Think they're a basement team?
Not a basement team. I bet they get like 78 to 80 wins.
Yeah, I guess they're no Texans.
Yeah, Believe it or not, though, Texas is actually
Rangers.
not.
What the hell did I just call them?
Yeah, believe it or not, the Rangers are not projected to be the worst team in baseball this year. It's actually the Rockies.
Yeah, well, I mean, they did trade away one of the best players in all of baseball. Well, we'll talk about that later because that's gonna come up in my.
Oh, it's gonna come on my list too. Okay.
Okay.
Wait, that's my 5 and 6. Do you want to talk about? You gave me your 5 in the Mets. What about your number 6 team? Is that the White Sox?
Did I give you 5 as Mets? What did I say?
You've so far you've told me
Padres.
yeah, Dodgers, Padres, Yankees, Braves, Mets.
Okay, so I'm gonna do my 6 and 7 together because I think these two teams play very similar in the same division, and they're both fucking rock star teams, and I think they're both criminally underrated. One of them less than the other, but number 6 is the White Sox. Number 7 is the Twins for me.
Okay.
White Sox, I think. When you talk about like the 5 teams that are trying to compete, I think the White Sox are up there in that top 5. I mean, it's very clear that they want to dethrone at least the Cubs as the best team in Chicago.
Okay.
I mean, their core players are fucking phenomenal, and I can't stress that enough. Tim Anderson, Yohan Moncada, Luis Robert. The left fielder, what is his name off the top of my head? I can't get it. Oh no! I gotta look it up.
Good question. I maybe have not been paying enough attention to the White Sox.
Jimenez.
Yeah, okay.
And then I believe there's another hitter in there that I'm missing. They're just so good, man. Obviously the pitching is the question for me. I do believe they added 1 or 2 guys that I thought were fantastic pickups for them in the offseason. I can't remember their names off the top of my head, but they're just criminally underrated team. I do have a little resentment for them just because I was getting really pissed with how these people were talking about Luis Roberts and how people thought he was better than K-Lou. But they're just a really good team. They're a better all-over team than the Mariners, easily, right? Number 6.
Here's... Can I say about the White Sox? I actually don't have the White Sox in my top 10. Wow. And it's for the same reason that I have the Astros in. It's actually... I haven't seen anything from the White Sox yet. I feel. So, as much as I respect the players and the names on the jerseys, until I see something from the White Sox, I'm gonna wait to see it to believe it type thing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so the White Sox don't. Maybe they're probably in the top 15 for me. I give them that much. I give them that much respect, but until I see it from the White Sox, I'm not gonna believe it. Just like until I don't see it anymore from the Astros, I'm not going to give them the benefit of the doubt type thing.
Okay.
Okay, you're number 7.
It's Jose Abreu.
What's that?
I said, how did I miss Jose Abreu?
Oh yeah, they've got the names. I'll give them that. They've got the names. Yasmani Grandal at catcher. Like they've got the.
Yeah. I totally forgot about Yasmani too.
Lucas Giolito and they have another great pitcher who is not Liam Hendricks.
Yeah, they're the ones who picked up Liam.
Yeah, that's right. I called him. What did I call him? Lance. Whatever. Liam Hendricks. That's what I meant.
Lance Lynn. Wow.
Yeah, they have Lance Lynn as well. So I will say this. I am ready to be wrong about the White Sox.
I just think you are.
I'm ready to be wrong, but until I see it, I can't put them in. You are saying the Twins are your number 7. They are my number 10 team.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of had to group them together. In my mind, they play very similar to the White Sox, and if I'm putting the White Sox at 6, almost feel like it's wrong to not put the Twins at number 7. The core in that team, again, is just fucking amazing. I mean, you look at guys like Mitch Garver, Byron Buxton, Nelson Cruz, who came back, Josh Donaldson.
They just added Andrelton Simmons too.
Yes, they sure did. And they got Jorge Polanco. Oh my god! I do think the names don't do it for me as much as the White Sox, and I think that's why I put the White Sox overboard or over the Twins here. But it's just a fantastic team, and they hit so many home runs. I don't see them stopping anytime soon on the home run department.
Yeah, that's for me. That's what pushed. So I had my list, and then I
Miguel Sano. How did I miss Miguel Sano?
I put them at number 10 because I had to add an American League Central team. I'm cold on the Central, honestly, and I think part of it is that, especially from a power ranking side, I think they're going to do the same things that they've done the last few years, and I think they're going to cannibalize each other. I think the White Sox, Indians, Twins are going to cannibalize each other, and that's why I have them kind of lower on the list. The team I see emerging is the Twins as the AL Central champions. We'll hope maybe they'll be able to win a playoff game. They're obviously in that famous drought of losing 18 playoff games in a row or something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll be able to break through that. It's kind of tough. I don't have as much faith in their pitching as maybe I would for the White Sox, but I kind of like their bats better. All the names you just mentioned. I mean, if you have Nelson Cruz in your lineup, I think you're a great lineup.
Yeah. Put him at number 4. He's not even a number 4 hitter. I'm almost certain Miguel Sano is hitting cleanup on that team. So that just shows how good the power bats are on that team, right?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think they're gonna hit themselves enough home runs to get themselves into the postseason. I like them as the number 10 team. I just, when it comes down to it, I don't have a lot of. I put them as the number 10 because I had to choose an AL Central team, and I don't have any faith in the AL Central. Not because I think they're bad teams. I think because they're going to cannibalize each other.
Yeah. I kind of think that you're taking away from the raw talent of all 3 of those teams. Because I will say
the fact is they play too many games. They play 18 games against each other each, or 17 or 19, whatever 19 games each against each other. Think
that takes away from the raw talent of each club.
I guess as far as a power rankings though, they're not the SEC, right? They're not they don't get the benefit of the doubt in that sense. They're gonna cannibalize each other, and that's gonna hurt them from being higher in the power rankings, I think.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
My number 7 team I have as the National League Central champions, the Milwaukee Brewers.
Wow.
I like the Brewers. I have them as, to me, they are my number 1 bounce back team. Because I think this lineup is stacked. It obviously has who I think is gonna have an amazing bounce back year. I'm ready for him to be back. Christian Yelich struggled yet last year, especially to start the season. Not great. He started to get it going, and he's actually really kind of under talked about based on what he did in the second, those second 30 games, right? He had a terrible first 20 games, first 30 games overall, but his second half of the 60-game season was something that was under talked about because of how bad his first half was. And Christian Yelich coming back, I think, is really important. I think important for him is going to be Lorenzo Cain coming back into center field.
Well, he opted out last year, didn't he?
Yes, he opted out last year, and that was I believe very devastating, in particular to Christian Yelich, but to the Milwaukee Brewers as a whole. The Brewers, I think, are going to have the best bullpen. We'll see how their starting pitching is. It's been the weakness that it has over the many years. However, as weak as their starting pitching has been, it also got them, 2 years ago to 1 game away from a World Series. So
yeah, that's absolutely true.
They lost in a Game 7 to the Dodgers in 2019. So my biggest bounce back candidate team, I believe, is the Milwaukee Brewers and Christian Yelich. Bringing some of those guys off of, off of their bad seasons, off of their opt-out seasons. They have a really special middle infield core, and I think are going to take off this year in Orlando Arcia and Kenton Haria.
Okay.
I especially what
Keston. I thought it was like Keston Herrera.
is it? Keston Haria, whatever his name is, Keston Kenton.
I don't know.
I think you're right. It might be Keston. Him in particular, Haria, I think is going to be a special player for the Milwaukee Brewers, and so I'm ready for him to take off. I'm ready. It's going to be interesting to see who they stick at the corners. Last year, the biggest problem, I don't know if they solved this. For me, the biggest problem last year was third base. Because their third baseman, after losing Mike Moustakas, was Eric Sogard was their main third baseman. That's not good.
Not good at all.
That's not good at all.
Well, I mean, baseball in general was kind of high on Sogard at the time, so I kind of see where they're coming from because he was a returning player to the team, right? And he had a fantastic 2019. I think for him.
Yeah, so I don't know if I don't know how you see the Brewers. I see the Brewers winning the National League Central. I think it's going to be a dogfight. I think it's going to be similar to the AL Central in that these teams, the Brewers, Cubs, Cardinals, are going to cannibalize each other. They're not going to have any. They're not going to have a great record coming out of it. But I think when the dust is settled, the Brewers emerge as the better hitting team. And the thing is that they are a better hitting team playing in a very hitter-friendly park. A park that their lefties love. So that's why I think the Brewers, that favors the Brewers. And I think they're a team with spunk. I mean, maybe this is just favoritism, blindness, whatever. I see the Brewers as the team that emerged from that scuffle as the number one NL Central team.
I do love the Brewers. They're one of my favorite teams. They're one of the teams I track mostly. So when I'm not looking at Mariners stuff, I'm almost always looking at Brewers or Cubs stuff. But I see them as like an 11 through 15 team. When I look at their lineup, it's just not top 10 material for me.
Yeah, I think the difference is that what's going to carry them is what's carried them all these years is that they're going to far and away have the best bullpen in baseball.
Yeah.
And that if you have a 2-1 lead, like their lineup, all they have to do is hit 2 homers, hit 3 homers, maybe have a 4-2 lead, 4-3 lead, and then the bullpen finishes the last 5 innings, and that's baseball.
Yeah, I guess that's why they keep picking up these lefty former Mariner bats like Lomo and Daniel Vogelback. And
yeah, I mean, if Vogie, I would love to see, especially in Miller Park. Vogie having 81 games in Miller Park, he's going to love it. Vogie's going to love that.
I mean, he already loved it when he played there for like 15. Like he
hit
like 6 or 7 home runs.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, after going from the vacuumous hole that can be the right field of Safeco, hitting over that right field fence in Safeco Field, it's gonna feel beautiful hitting into right field of Miller Park. Like you couldn't be more excited for the guy. Love Vogie.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
Me too.
You gave me your number 7, right?
I believe so.
I already gave you my number 8.
So,
your number 7 was the Twins. I gave you my number 8. My number 8 was the Braves. Give me your number 8.
I'm sorry, what was your number 8 again?
The Braves.
Right, and I'm much higher on the Braves. So this is where it gets complicated for me. Number eight. My heart, my soul, my body tells me that the 8th best team in baseball is another AL East team. It's the Washington Nationals.
Oh my god, that's disgusting.
I know, but I love them. I don't know why. Maybe it's just because they defeated the monster that is the 2019 Houston Astros in that Game 7, right? But I think they have the best hitter in baseball. which really they have two of the
Whoa,
top
whoa,
10
whoa,
guys.
whoa, 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 whoa.
Juan Soto is is probably in my eyes the best hitter in baseball. Moment in time.
Have you forgotten about Mike Trout, Mookie Betts? Like, maybe the
No,
best hitter on the
I
East
haven't-
Coast. I'd be willing to I'd be willing to discuss with you the best hitter on the East Coast. I'd be willing to discuss that. Best hitter in baseball is a non-starter for me. I would say maybe one of the most clutch hitters in baseball. But again, that was in one postseason. That did not happen last year. Juan Soto was not
no,
crotch grabbing Juan
was an
Soto.
absolute monster last year. Whoa, I feel like you're bending time and space.
It
Juan
wasn't
Soto
the same though. I
hit-
think you're basing this off of 2019, not or 2000. Yeah. Oh, I mistalked about the Brewers. That was 2018 Brewers. They're not the
You're right.
2019 Nationals. I will say this. Juan Soto, very good. He's gonna be an MVP contender for sure. Which is gonna be amazing because he's gonna be playing on a shitty team.
Okay, whatever.
So I'll respect to him.
You have to acknowledge that he's hitting right behind Trey Turner, and he's hitting right in front of Josh Bell, who I do think is going to have a good season. And they added another fantastic lefty bat, Kyle Schwarber. Their 4, 5, 6 guys are Kyle Schwarber, Juan Soto, and I just fucking dropped it. Josh Bell. And then they have Ryan Zimmerman hitting right after that. Ryan Zimmerman might be 36 and a veteran, but he's still a pretty clutch guy. Like, I do think this lineup has what it takes to absolutely tear the cover off the ball. And they've got one of the best prospects in baseball, Carter Kaboom, who could absolutely have a breakout year.
I will say this. Juan Soto is a superstar. Max Scherzer, superstar. I'm not interested in the Mets or in the Nationals.
Dude,
I'm not interested in the Nationals beyond those two players.
Literally not even talking about their rotation and bullpen, which is like one of the best in baseball. I do think they're top 3, while a little bit older. I do think Patrick Corbin, Max Scherzer, and
Steven Strasburg
are fantastic players who I want to watch pitch. Even if the Mariners traded for all 3 of those guys, I'd be fucking thrilled to see them 3 out of the 5 days that they play. Right.
Here's what I'll say. I like
including their bullpen, which they picked up Brad Hand, right?
I like their players. I think if the Nationals are good, I think that's good for baseball. I'm out on them.
What a hero team.
I'm out on them. I do not think the Nationals make the postseason.
Well, fuck you. They're gonna prove you wrong. So whatever.
The reason I don't think that they make the postseason is because obviously
in their bracket.
Yeah, obviously the Padres are great. The Braves I have faith in, and I am excited about the St. Louis Cardinals. They're my number 9 team.
Yeah, me too.
They already had one of my favorite players, Paul Goldschmidt. They traded for Nolan Arenado. The corners, so they're sold. They're set at the corners for the rest of eternity, right?
Yeah, no, dude. The incredible thing is they have the setup of the A's, except for they're just better. Like Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt are just a better version of the Mats on the A's.
Right.
So yes, I think I did steal your thunder a little bit, but that's
No, you're good. I don't have too much to say about them. I just they're not projections. Actually, don't have them as high. They actually have them behind the Cubs. Actually, they have them in 3rd place. I don't really know. I don't know why. I think the Cardinals.
St. Louis in 3rd place behind the Cubs.
Yeah, I hate the Cubs. I think the Cubs are doo doo.
Oh, I know you hate the Cubs.
I think the Cubs, but like legitimately, I think the Cubs are like not good this year. Like hypothetically, I could even see the Reds being better than the Cubs. I don't like the Cubs.
I don't think the Cubs are bad. They're not in my top 10. I wanted to put them there because I like the Cubs, and I love their core players of Javier Baez, Wilson Contreras, Anthony Rizzo, Chris Bryant. But they lost Yu Darvish. They lost Kyle Schwarber. Fuck that team. Like, I can't believe they would do. Can't believe you've done this.
Yeah.
Not even the best team in Chicago anymore.
Yeah. I'm very down on the Cubs. So because of that, I unfortunately I think the St. Louis is gonna miss unless they can overtake the Brewers. I think St. Louis misses the playoffs because I don't think they're as good as the Padres or the Braves for the wild card.
So stacked. Top teams in the NL are crazy, man.
Yeah, so I mean that's my last team on the list. We already talked. I said the Twins are 10. I like St. Louis because I think that combination of Goldschmidt Arenado is I think going to be pretty special for them.
Yeah, I agree. It's like Anthony Rendon and Mike Trout.
All right. I think we only need your
Number 10.
9 and 10 teams, right?
No, my number 9 was also St. Louis. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. No, you're good.
Number
number
I don't
10.
really have anything else to add about St. Louis other than I watched Jake Flaherty pitch his first game of spring training. Didn't look like he knew how to throw a baseball, which is very concerning.
So you have St. Louis as the National League Central champions then, huh?
Say that again?
You have St. Louis as the National League Central champions? They're your best National League Central team? St. Louis?
I guess I do, because I didn't choose the Brewers, which you did. Yeah,
All right.
I guess I do.
All right, number 10. Wrap it up, Nick. Twins are number 10 for me. Number 10 for you. I haven't heard it. Okay, one thing, looking at Nick's list, I don't think we've heard anything about the American League West.
Dude, we've barely talked about the AL with my list. I'm so high on NL teams, and I don't know why.
You are, yeah. Who have you mentioned from the AL? Well, you've mentioned at least three teams: Yankees, White Sox, and Twins. So,
you know what? Fuck it. Number 10. Your Seattle Mariners.
that's.
I'm joking. I can't
so
say
sad.
that. No, that's fun.
That would be dope.
Do you think the Mariners, I could see them being like a top 11 through 15 team?
Oh,
which is a huge stretch, right?
maybe.
I'm high on the board in teal. I don't know what to tell you.
Okay.
I don't know. I actually this is why I chose top 10, because I knew who I wanted for my top 5, and then I got through number 10, and I'm like, fuck, I don't know.
For me, the reason that the Mariners can't be in your top 10, or they can be in yours, you can do whatever the hell you want. The reason the Mariners should not be in anyone's top 10, from my opinion, is because they're not going to get the respect. Like no publication is going to put, unless we start doing blog posts. No publication is going to put Mariners. Even if the Mariners start playing well, doing whatever, have a decent season, there's not going to be a publication that's going to go anywhere near touching the Mariners. They're not. Even if the Mariners have a respectable record, respectable results, there's not going to be a publication that follows baseball that's going to even consider putting them any higher than a bottom third team. They're never going to have a chance to get higher than even 20th this year.
I'm going to say, if the Mariners are 500 at the trade deadline, I'm going to bribe whoever the fuck I need to bribe to write an article on why the Seattle Mariners are going to win the World Series. And then everyone's going to be so fucking high on the Seattle Mariners, and it's going to be all because of me. Not because of the players, because of my fucking article, the article that I bribe out.
Let me see here. I'm going to be honest, any sort of article I've referenced talking about projections or expectations for the year, I haven't even talked about the Mariners.
Yeah, I mean,
That's what I'm telling you is it's rough to put them in a top 10 power rankings wise because they're an absolute afterthought.
Yeah.
The only reason they're not going to be the worst team in the American League is because the Rangers are a dumpster fire. At least the Mariners have prospects, right? The Rangers have no good players. and have no money and have no farm system. Like,
Yeah, it's probably better off for the Rangers to just sell their team at this point. It's so bad for them.
it's gonna they're in the Rangers are about to go into a rebuild that's gonna shock the history of baseball, I think, because they have not only do they have no assets to trade, they have no farm, they have nothing to create a farm with because they have no assets to trade. Like, I would.
Yeah, it's pretty.
Let's just say I live in Texas.
Their best player is a 200 power hitter.
I live in Texas, and I haven't heard. You wouldn't even know the Rangers were a team. I live in Texas, man. You wouldn't even know the Rangers were a team if you weren't a baseball fan. Like,
all right, I think we've rambled enough for me to figure out who my 10th best team is.
Okay, I bought you enough time.
I will say, I narrowed it down between the Toronto Blue Jays, the Tampa Bay Rays, and the Cleveland Indians, or the Cleveland baseball team.
So you're not interested at all in the Astros or the Angels?
I'm not interested in the AL West at all. I think this is going to be the weakest year the AL West has had in a long time, and that's why I think the Mariners could possibly make the postseason. I am not set on the Angels, which I actually really like your reasoning for, and I can see why you want to put them so high. But fuck it, no, I can't. Their pitching is so bad. I can't give them a fucking thought.
PECOTA, believe it or not, Nick, PECOTA, the baseball projection statistic, actually has the Angels finishing as the number 1 wild card team in the American League.
Really? Behind, and then Houston's the best in the...
Well, no, they have the Yankees as the number 1 team, Houston as the number 2 seed,
okay,
the Twins as the number 3 seed, and then the Angels as the number 1 wild card team.
I think it's just pity, dude. I think all these projectionists are just like.
What do you mean? It's not projectionists though. It's statistics. It's their models. It's their statistical models,
Dude,
right?
They lost Simba, and their star prospect center fielder doesn't look like he's ever swung a bat before. So,
I just wanted to try and sell you on the Angels. As much as I dislike them, I respect them. We'll go back to that again. I'm gonna have that conversation with myself.
They have a 65-year-old first baseman. They have Justin Upton, who
he's not gonna play first base.
Justin Upton looks like he is also 65 when he swings the bat.
Yeah, he can swing it though.
Like, other than Trout, they don't have an outfielder. Like, they don't have a defense considering they got rid of Anderson Simmons. Like, who is their best?
Oh, they just brought up. I think you're forgetting what's his name. That young.
Other than Fletcher.
No, that young super. Oh yeah, Fletcher. Put some respect on Fletcher's name, as much as he's burned the Mariners.
Dude,
that prospect that they just brought up last year, Angels. They just brought up a top prospect.
Yes, that's the guy I'm talking about, who literally looks like he's never swung a bat before. He's terrible. He hit like 180 or maybe even lower. With like, he literally slugged for like 215 last year. Jake. Like,
What was his name?
I don't know. That's how bad he played. I couldn't tell you. But I'm going to go with my number 10. I figured it out. It's the Toronto Blue Jays.
Okay.
I'm not going to elaborate.
That's fine.
I'm
not interested in your elaboration. Okay, here, I'll do it for you. I'll do it for you. The Rays are no longer trying to win baseball games. They've gotten rid of their good players. I think
they have so much raw talent. It's
very possible that after the Yankees, beat down all 4 of their opponents in the East, that potentially the Blue Jays arise as that second team out of the East. I
think you're sleeping on the Red Sox a little. I think the whole world is sleeping on the Red Sox.
No, the Red Sox are bad.
Dude, Chris Sale's coming back from Tommy John. It's literally Chris Sale. He's one of the best pitchers in this era of baseball.
And he'll be
one of the best sliders of all time.
And he'll be traded. at the deadline because the Red Sox will be out of, they're going to need assets. Like, the Red Sox are not trying to win baseball games. They're in the tank. They've already chosen this life for themselves.
Yeah, maybe, but the raw talent on the team is so good that, like, this team could just play, like, swing the sticks and throw the balls into a wild card, like 2 games out of a wild card, or maybe even like lead a wild card.
No, I mean,
by the
I think
deadline.
the Red Sox are just happy that the Orioles exist, so they can't finish in last place.
Look at their core players. Xander Bogaerts, Rafael Devers. All right, gets a little dicey from there.
The corpse of David Ortiz, like.
No, David Ortiz.
David Ortiz, who just got flown in because he got shot.
We also have Andrew something.
Andrew, yeah, JD Martinez.
You're killing me. I'm gonna pull it up. Where? I can't find the Red Sox on the list, man. This roster is sleeper though. I'll
give you the Blue Jays because I like their young talent, right? They have Bo Bichette, Vlad Jr. Interesting guys in the Blue Jays system.
Oh, and they have their second pitcher is Eduardo Rodriguez, who is a lot better than anyone is going to give him credit for. He was their ace last year, and he actually like played really well for their like backup ace.
What did the Red Sox finish last year?
Bro, shut up.
Googling. 24-36. They won 4 out of every 10 games. They finished in 5th place in their division. They finished behind Baltimore in their division.
Hey, guess who doesn't care?
Wow.
This guy.
They finished in.
Sleeper.
They finished in last place. Oy vey. Oy vey.
You're killing me.
I mean,
you're vampire draining the life right out of me.
You don't like to see that. Not at all.
Hey, I didn't put them in my top 10. I just said they're kind of sleeper. Like, people think they're like a
like they're asleep. Is that what you mean? Like they're sleeping through the season? They're not planning on showing up. They're gonna sleep through the season. They're tired. Okay.
Bro,
sleeper. Sleeper. They're tired. They be sleeping.
Oh my god.
All right, that's it for our podcast. Please disagree with us, but I'm right, so whatever.
If you made it this far into the power rankings, thank you, and please disagree with everything that we
said. Nick, this is our longest podcast ever.
By far, dude.
This is 2 hours and 30 minutes. Dude, I was thinking we would do like an hour and a half.
No way. I knew we were going to do a long one.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for watching. We'll see you next time. Go M's, and we promise that the next one won't be this long.
Yeah, we'll try. Go M's.
There's a drive, deep right field, say goodbye. Hey, Lloyd, do some delivery for the truck to the airport.